One weekend,
jet lag.
You just forget how to work everything.
Okay. I turn them up and they work. Brilliant.
There you go. Who'd have thought?
See you tomorrow morning, Rory. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, indeed, it is another 9 till noon show. At 9 o'clock, though, we start with a news update, and it's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Ukrainian forces in the port city of Mariupol are refusing to stop fighting after rejecting an offer from Russia to surrender. Moscow claims that if Ukraine's soldiers laid down their weapons, it would allow for the safe passage of civilians out of the besieged city, where conditions have been described as hell on earth. Authorities there say Russian forces bombarded an art school where 400 people were sheltering. In Kiev, at least 4 people were killed during a bomb attack which gutted a shopping centre. However, an assessment by British intelligence claims that Russia's advance on the capital is stalling. Sky's special correspondent Alex Crawford is on the outskirts of Kiev. She says the centre itself feels secure.
People are definitely beginning to come back out onto the streets. Even shops and some restaurants are opening. They feel quite secure, I think, right in the centre. But even from where we were, we could hear the volley of explosions late last night.
40 business leaders attended a Donegal business breakfast in the London borough of Islington at the weekend as part of a series of Irish community events organised by the area's Donegal-born mayor. The business event was coordinated by Donegal County Council's Head of Economic Development, Anne-Marie Conlon, who says it was potentially a very important gathering. Speaking in London, she told Highland Radio that the ability to act as a bridge between the UK and the EU is a major selling point for Donegal.
Donegal has come on so much in the last 20 years, and I think what's really important is our cross-border location. If we're in the EU, but we're right beside Northern Ireland with access to UK and Northern Ireland markets, and I suppose when we're connecting with businesses in London, what we're saying to them is, look, this is a great location if you want to access the EU. We're right here on the border with Northern Ireland, so the people of Donegal are really comfortable working in those two settings, and that in itself is it's a key selling point.
Gardaí are continuing to investigate the killing of a mother of 5 in North Dublin. 36-year-old Sandra Boyd was shot dead at the back of her family home in Finglas on Saturday night. Gardaí are investigating the theory that she was shot accidentally. And almost half of children with Down syndrome have had no vital early intervention services in the past year, according to a new report. Down Syndrome Ireland also say 40% had no communication from the HSE in the past 12 months. Almost 1/3 of survey respondents received 0 speech and language therapy sessions, which are developmentally crucial. Today is World Down Syndrome Day, and DSI CEO Barry Sheridan says it's essential that these shortages are discussed.
We're seeing huge delays, we're seeing huge waiting lists. We're seeing really poor lack of communication in some areas. And, when you've got parents of young children with Down syndrome and they're waiting, almost 3 years to get any services, we've come so far as a society. It's just not good enough, really, that, we're still waiting.
Cloudy and misty in many areas to start this morning. A little drizzle possible, but it'll become mostly dry as the day goes on. A mix of cloud and sunny spells coming through with highest temperatures 12 to 14 degrees Celsius. Mostly moderate southeasterly breezes. That's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 10 o'clock.
Eileen can milk 49 cows in 57 minutes. Michael could wire a new kitchen in under 3 hours. And John can fix Sandra's shower, sink and toilet all before lunch. Fair play to you, John. These people are experts at what they do, so they work fast. We're experts in getting to know their business and helping it be better connected with Ireland's fastest mobile network. If you're a small business, switch to 3 Business from only €15 per month. Visit us in store or at 3.ie/business. 3 Business, where connections come to life. €15 per month for the first 12 months on our SIM-only plan, €25 thereafter, based on analysis by Ookla of speed test intelligence data for Q3 to Q4 2021.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
And it is 4 minutes past 9 on this Monday, the 21st of March. How are you doing? How are you? I hope you are well. We're all good here after our little adventure in London, as you heard Donald mention there. On the news, we broadcast a special show from Islington between 12 and 2, and it's available for you to watch back, by the way, if you so wish, on our Facebook pages and our YouTube pages, if you wish to catch up on that. And then there was a Mayor's Ball, of course, Donegal-born mayor over there on Saturday evening too, which was a very successful event, great entertainment too, not least Daniel O'Donnell and much more. And then, of course, you heard there from Anne-Marie Conlon, there was a business element to it as well in terms of, increasing and harnessing and forging new business links. But all good. And I think they had a great day yesterday. Goats Don't Shave were performing, and it was a family fun day and all that. And they had the weather, and we come back to beautiful weather here as well. And it's looking good for the week. Right, let's look at the newspapers this morning. The Derry People Donegal News, a Letterkenny hotel which began welcoming Ukrainian refugees this week. McGettigan's Hotel has a 3-month contract to provide accommodation to those fleeing the war. Speaking to the Donegal News, General Manager Michael Nocton, I beg your pardon, said they were still finalising the details about how many refugees they'll be taking in, but expected them to begin arriving from today onwards. We have 82 bedrooms in McGettigan's, and if we have to give the 82 rooms, we'll give the whole lot. But at the moment, nothing is set in stone. Now, we have been contacted by people who had bookings or functions arranged for that hotel, still working our way through those messages and the implications it has for other people. But if you have something to say on that, you can get in touch with us. The lines are open for you. You can call Caroline on 07491 25,000 or WhatsApp and text on 086 60 25,000. The Derry News tells us that Derry girl Amber Harkin has battled with anorexia for as long as she can remember. Now at 30, she is bravely fighting to recover after a relapse at the beginning of last year and remains in a critical condition. Amber is on a strict bed rest and regularly sees doctors that monitor her organ functions and recovery, as the disorder has specifically caused grave pressure on her heart. Much more on the front of and inside the Derry News today. On to the Nationals now, and the Irish Times tells us that Ukraine has accused Moscow's invasion forces of killing dozens more civilians and deporting thousands, even as mediator Turkey hoped a ceasefire could soon be agreed. And Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said he wanted to meet Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin to avert a possible Third World War. Mr. Zelensky also questioned Israel's position on the Russian invasion and urged it to supply an air defense system to Ukraine, and Pope Francis called on world leaders to stop this repugnant war during his Sunday address. Meanwhile, Russia last night demanded that Ukraine forces in Mariupol surrender and lay down their arms by 5 a.m. They haven't. I don't know what the basis of that warning was or what Russia might do next with the ability to say, well, we did warn them to surrender. This is what is to follow. That city particularly is a nightmare territory. Hundreds of thousands of people, I believe, still stuck there. It's surrounded and it's constantly being shelled. It's pretty much been destroyed completely at this point, but it seems to be an important city in Putin's war. Russia continues to shell the residential areas of towns and cities, including the capital, as its land forces appear to make slow headway in an invasion Mr. Putin launched on February 24th. But of course he can attack from the sky, he can attack from the ground, from distance as well. Actual forces on the ground in and of itself. Right, okay, the Irish Independent now. A drug which could revolutionise the treatment of obesity by reducing body weight by almost a fifth within a year has been given the green light for use in Ireland and other European countries. I believe we talked about this last year or the year before. It's a drug called Wegovy. I think, Wegovy, maybe it's called Wegovy, which has been approved by the European Medicines Agency. It involves the patient getting a once-a-week jab to suppress their appetite. Professor Carol LaRue, an obesity specialist at St Vincent's University Hospital in Dublin, said the medication could revolutionise the treatment of the condition. It works by triggering the body to produce a hormone to regulate appetite, leading to reduced cravings and calorie intake. The Irish Daily Mail this morning. Food is the next to rocket in price. This is a warning, as I say, from the Irish Daily Mail. No surprise here, though. Unfortunately, fears are growing in government over the growing contagion between fuel inflation and rising food prices. The effect of fuel price rises on the cost of food is driving a growing demand for cuts in VAT on fuel. One senior minister confirmed Ireland was seeking flexibility from Europe on changing our VAT rate. Meanwhile, there are fears that industrial relations peace could be the next casualty of the growing inflation crisis, as government braces for a raft of 15% pay claims to match soaring inflation. Public Expenditure Minister Michael McGrath is facing an renegotiation of public sector pay deals this year. Tensions already high. They're only going to get higher. That's in the public sector, though. In the private sector, pay rises are often much more difficult to come by, to say the very least. Right, on to the Sun this morning. Changes to the restrictions on blood donation rules for gay and bisexual men must be implemented immediately, a senator has said. The Irish Blood Transfusion Service has appealed for the public's help in increasing blood supply levels in recent days as a shortage hits the country. Fine Gael Senator Jerry Buttimer said, while I welcome the IBTS's recent announcement that they'll implement changes to the donation policies, gay and bisexual men still face overly restrictive rules on donating blood. At the moment, a man who has had sex with another man in the past 12 months is not eligible to donate blood. I'm calling on Minister Stephen Donnelly to expedite the changes to the blood donation rules as a matter of urgency. I wasn't aware that that was still the case. I thought that had changed, but according to the Senator, the rules are still quite restrictive. On to the Irish Daily Star this morning. And a ceremony honouring the lives lost during the COVID-19 pandemic took place yesterday as the Taoiseach ruled out bringing back restrictions despite Ireland battling another wave of the virus. Hospitals are very busy at the moment. There's over 1,100 people in hospital with COVID. Around 50 people are in ICU. Obviously, we know the separation there between with and of COVID, but still it puts incredible pressure on the hospitals. Over 80 in Letterkenny University Hospital with COVID at the moment. Mr. Varadkar said that about half of those with COVID were already in hospital and that their positive cases were picked up during routine checks. So whilst the figure is over 1,000, in reality, 500 are ill with COVID, still a significant number. The event, entitled the National Day of Remembrance and Reflection Ceremony, took place in the Garden of Remembrance in North Dublin yesterday. The ceremony paid tribute to those who died during the pandemic and those who battled the challenges posed by the disease. Very worthwhile, of course. It seems a little bit premature when you see what's going on, but it's happened nonetheless. And I'm delighted someone did this because, of course, you know, we've been talking about fuel, and I was listening to Eamon Ryan this morning, and he says, you know, the real way we can tackle Putin is not through, you know, banning flights over Ukraine. It's by stopping our use of oil, gas, coal, etc. that emanates from it. But obviously, you know, the government perhaps needs to practice what it preaches, because ministers globetrotting for St. Patrick's Day were anything but green, as they emitted as much carbon as 4,500 households do in 1 year. So I don't know what the population of a local town, I think, say for instance Donegal town, I think the population in and around 4,500 there. So politicians, now there were other people on the plane, of course, I'm not sure if they broke it down like this, but the politicians away on St. Patrick's Day used up as much or emitted as much bad gases as everybody in Donegal town. Isn't that quite remarkable? The annual visit saw senior politicians travelling as far afield as Argentina, New Zealand and India, but that comes with an environmental cost, as this year's itinerary saw at least 46.52 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent being spewed into the atmosphere. That's more than 50% higher than in 2019, the last time a similar number of visits were made. The average household generates 11 tonnes, one of the EU's highest. While detailed itineraries have not been released, the Irish Mirror calculated the footprint of each trip based on the official list of destinations, assuming each official flew alone and took the most direct route in an economy seat. So it could actually even be higher than they predicted. Ironically, Hildegard Naughton, a Minister of State at the Department of the Environment, is the worst offender. Her visit to Australia and New Zealand emitted at least 5.49 tonnes of CO2. So the Environment Minister's trip on its own pumped out 6 months' worth of your emissions out of your house. That's absolutely remarkable. Flabbergasted. 08660 if you've got an opinion on that or anything else. We've got plenty coming up, but there's always space for you to raise your issues. Tell us your stories. Have your say. Caroline on the phones, 07491 25000. We'll be joined by our first guests on the show very shortly.
Newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Darren Brown, the multi-award-winning master of mind control and psychological illusion, is coming to Derry with his brand new live show, Showman, guaranteed to blow your mind. From the 26th of April for 1 week only. Don't miss Darren Brown, live at the Millennium Forum. Book now at millenniumforum.co.uk.
This is a notice for all tractor and agri-plant owners. Minimise your downtime when you need tyres and call Donegal Tyres Donegal Town. We can go to you and fit your tyres on site or repair your existing tyres if you have a puncture. Don't waste time and leave the hassle to us. So call Donegal Tyres now on 074 9721 482 to organise your call out.
Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny now has even longer opening hours. Try Kelly's Early Bird Breakfast, one of their great lunch specials, or a renowned Jake's Burger. Kelly's famous steak specials are available every Saturday from 3, with an 8-ounce succulent steak and all the trimmings for just €11. New extended opening hours now in Kelly's award-winning diner at Mountaintop Letterkenny. Check out Facebook for details.
Win with low prices from SuperValue with a great range in-store and online, like SuperValue chilled Valencia orange juice 1 litre only €2. Epic! SuperValue frozen vegetable stir-fry mix 750 gram only $1.19. Smashed it! And SuperValue chocolate chip cookies only 99¢. Winning! Win with low prices that compete with anyone. Win with SuperValue.
Bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €5,050 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
Okay, so we mentioned that McGettigan's Hotel in Letterkenny is being made available to Ukrainian refugees who should begin arriving from today for the next 3 months. And that triggered an email from one of our listeners that reads, Dear Greg, in relation to McGettigan's Hotel being used as a venue for housing Ukrainians, the reason I'm messaging you is that I'm absolutely sickened reading posts from people congratulating the owners for letting their hotel be used to house Ukrainians. Don't get me wrong, I'm certainly not against Ukrainians coming to our country or our county, but the reason I'm so annoyed is because yesterday at lunchtime I got a call to tell me that they were sorry, but they now would not be able to host my wedding, which is in a couple of weeks' time, I believe it is. We have a deposit paid and invitations ready to be posted this week, naming their hotel as the reception venue. It is unbelievable that they can let people down at such short notice. I've heard 2 amounts that hotels are getting per night, and this is what I'd love to find out and put out there. One amount was €250 per room per night, and another is €180 per room. There are 82 rooms in the hotel. I'm pretty sure those figures aren't too far out. So anyone who thinks that they are being kind and going out of their way to accommodate these unfortunate people need to know they are getting more than well paid for it. They tell me that they'll help me look for another venue. The county's venues are well booked out as is, but hopefully we'll find a spot before our date. I'm not texting about this part. I'm sure we'll find something. It's just given that it's public money, I'd just love people to know how much money they're getting to do this. Thanks for taking the time to read my message, and thanks always for being a voice for our county. Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I appreciate your kind words nonetheless. So that is someone very upset there. Short notice. It's affected them, and I mean, people like there might go, well, look what's happening in Ukraine. Okay, that's fine, and I get that, and that's fine to have that opinion, and understandable and justifiable, and I get that as well. But these are people who've already maybe had to cancel a wedding or what have you, and now they're finding themselves at short notice being told that they can't. Now, obviously, there's a humanitarian level to this, but there's also presumably a commercial element to it as well, and people in their own lives struggling with, relative to them, their own things, to have to deal with this as well is a problem. Andrew is affected by this as well, I believe. Andrew, thanks for taking the call this morning.
Hello, Craig.
Right, tell us, you were scheduled to have your wedding reception in McGettigan's on the 20th of June. That's only a couple of months away.
Yeah.
What were you told? How were you contacted?
I was rang on Saturday at 1 o'clock, and they basically just told us they cancelled their whole wedding to take in the Ukrainians. And
yeah, go ahead.
Basically that they've left us in the lurch now.
Did they say to you that they would try and help you find an alternative venue, or?
Well, they're saying that they're going to ring around, but basically we rang the station house to see if the station house could help us.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a meeting with them today, but basically I had rooms and all booked for my family and people to come from England and all to stay at the hotel, and now that's all cancelled.
Oh, right, okay, that's a huge inconvenience, isn't it? Especially people plan early now to try and avoid any stress leading up to the big day, but you're having to start that process all over again now.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get sorted. I think you may be lucky, because if you happen to get a hotel in Letterkenny and they can work with you, that's fine. There's going to be a lot of people in the same boat that aren't going to have... now, obviously you have nothing booked yet, but, you know, there's a lot of people going to be ringing around a lot of hotels today. Inevitably, people are going to be disappointed.
Yeah. See, we were on the phone to Station House and they told us that they have no rooms now on the 20th of June for my family or people coming from England to stay over, so I'm going to have to ring around all of Letterkenny to try and find rooms to keep them the night before my wedding.
Yeah. How many rooms did you have booked, Andrew?
I had 10 rooms booked.
Right, okay, so it's not insignificant, okay. And that is on the 20th of June. Did the hotel say anything else to you? Did they give any reason? I mean, obviously we know it's to help house Ukraine refugees, but did they say anything beyond that?
No.
And, I mean, in terms of sort of trying to deal with the fact that obviously we're trying to help people coming from a very different country at the moment, and some might say, you know, they would love to be able to have a wedding in their own cities, which are now being destroyed. I mean, it is a bit of a moral dilemma. At the end of the day, though, you have to deal with what you have to deal with. This is your big day, and you have to deal with your disappointment and trying to come up with alternatives.
Yeah, see, we had everything planned, and now we have to restart the whole process, which is really stressful.
Okay.
Because we've only 3 months to try and find somewhere and then get everything sorted.
In terms of deposits and what have you, was that sorted quickly, or?
We haven't received our deposit back or anything. We had a good bit of money paid off. We'd nearly the whole thing paid off, and they haven't even rang us about giving us back the money or anything.
Okay, well, that's just another factor, because you might need that quite quickly to secure another venue at short notice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, listen, Andrew, I hope it gets sorted. Do you have your invitations printed and all?
We had the invitations and everything printed. We have them sent off, and now we're going to have to redo all this with different address on it.
All right, okay. All right, listen, I hope it all gets sorted for you and you get your day over and done with. Let us, not over and done with, that sounds terrible, but you know what I mean, the organisation of it, so that you can look forward to it. 10 rooms you're looking for as well for that date, just on the off chance anyone's listening and wants to help out. Thank you very much, Andrew, as I say. The best of luck with getting that organised.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, so that's Andrew's experience. 086 60 25,000. When I was reading the story initially, I didn't really consider the fact that people would have weddings and stuff planned. What's your view? 086 60 25,000. Have yours say, just like Andrew did there. Who, sorry? Okay, thank you very much indeed. Right, another caller says, I got a one-for-all voucher. I got one on the 28th of January for €40. On the 26th of February, I spent $22.94 on the 12th of March and bought $12.58, but the voucher wouldn't accept it. But there should be €17 on it. I called the number and gave the voucher number, and it said there was only €4.40 available. The service charge is only supposed to kick in after 12 months, but I only had it a few weeks and had only spent on it once. Where's the rest of the money? I wonder, did the person who bought that voucher for you, did they buy it as they were giving it to you? Who's to say? I think we can say good morning now to Senator Marie Sherlock. Good morning to you, Senator.
Good morning, Greg, and good morning to all your listeners.
Thank you so much for joining us. Right, you posted on social media, hands up Donegal and Derry folk, how many have ever taken the Derry-Belfast train en route to Dublin, and you went on from there? What was the purpose of that post?
Well, Greg, as I'm sure you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from Donegal originally, but I've been coming to Donegal now, to Inishowen and Carndonagh for almost 18 years. And I must say, to my shame, I've never actually taken the train from Derry to Dublin. And I suppose really it's reflective that Donegal is one of the few counties in the country that does not have a rail link, and of course hasn't had a rail link for well over 60 years now. And I found myself on Saturday night having to take the train to Dublin. And it really got me thinking about, I suppose, the issue of connectivity between the Northwest and Donegal in particular and Dublin. And while, of course, we need to see the A5 developed and we need to see better bus routes, we also need to see rail links. And like, I'm hugely supportive of the call for a rail link from Letterkenny to Dublin. But we also have an existing rail link on our doorstep, particularly for those in the I suppose the east of the county, and for me it's about ensuring that we have a better frequency of service and a lower cost, and that's opening up a whole world of possibilities then to those in Inshone and those in the east of Donegal.
So what are you saying? Are you saying that for now people should be looking at the Derry, Belfast, Dublin route as a viable way of travelling from the northwest to the capital? Is that?
Well, I suppose.
For now,
if you have time on your hands, right, it is certainly a possibility. Like, it took me 4 hours and 40 minutes from when I left the very beautiful Derry train station to when I got to Connolly in Dublin on Saturday night. And certainly it takes a long, it certainly is a long run with, I think, 8 stops along the way between Derry and Belfast.
And I mean, if you were travelling from somewhere like Milford or perhaps Donegal town, you'd be looking at 8 hours.
Absolutely. So, but the thing is, Greg, I suppose for me, like, we absolutely need to look at how Donegal is connected to the rest of the country. And so, as I say, that is a combination of road, bus and rail. But let's start with what we have already. I think the thing is, I was struck when my then boyfriend, now husband, had to bring him to Cork. He'd never been on a train in his life. So I think the thing is, how do we actually get people used to the train experience in that part of Donegal in particular, because they have this resource on their doorsteps. And the other thing to say is the Derry to Belfast route is probably one of the most beautiful rail routes in the world. Like, as in, I was really blown away by how scenic it is. But really, it's about the frequency, the length of time, and there's no reason why there couldn't be an express route from Derry to Belfast. And then, of course, we do have the enterprise from Belfast down to Dublin. And certainly then that becomes another option, because I know, I have family, I have friends in Donegal who are looking for alternatives. And this is the world that we now live in, that we have to have alternatives out of the car for how people, connect with the rest of the country. And if we are to, ensure a move away from that car dependence, then we need to make options like trains very attractive. And the thing is, building new train networks, which is what will need to happen if we're to connect the west of the county by rail to the rest of the country.
I mean, there's a huge
That's
demand.
Very expensive. We have an existing rail rail network on our doorsteps, particularly in Inshone and in the east of the county.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
You don't sound convinced.
I just don't think Derry, Belfast, Dublin's a viable option for a lot of people via rail. It doesn't.
Well, Greg, it depends on where you are, of course, but I suppose all I can do is just tell you my experience.
Yeah, I get you. And that's fine. And especially if you love the train and you've got a bit of time. How much did it cost you? Do you know off the top of your head?
It actually cost me £33. And as the man in Derry train station very helpfully told me, it would have cost me £39 if I had booked a Derry, Belfast, Dublin. But actually, the ticket was Derry, Newry, and then Newry, Dublin. And I must say, the other thing is you can't book a ticket online. So, in terms of barriers to travelling by rail, there's
it's only
lots
2022. Will you give us a chance to get that stuff sorted? I mean, it's...
Well, it's crazy. And so I suppose that was my appeal to even TransLink and to Irish Rail. Like, let's get the simple stuff done.
How quickly, if there was some sort of an express way, right? I don't know how that would work. I don't know the logistics of it. How quickly could the journey be done, do you think?
Well, there's no reason why it should take 2 hours to go from Derry to Belfast. As you know, and as most of your listeners know, it takes over an hour, or I suppose about an hour and a half to go from Derry to Belfast. So there's no reason why there couldn't be an express route that would take under an hour or an hour from to cut the journey in half from Derry to Belfast, and then we're looking at 2 hours. So that takes 3 hours then. And if somebody's coming from Inishone, like as in on a good day, we can make Dublin to Carndonna in about 3 hours and 45 minutes. But like if we could do, Derry to Dublin, I know there are lots of people who have to come to Dublin for health reasons or for education or for other reasons that would gladly take the train if they thought that there was a good service, a frequent service and a cheaper service in place. And I think there's no reason why the Irish government and the government of the North, the government of the Republic and the government in the North can't, come together and ensure that we have a better service, because this is what, we have to ensure that the whole of the island is better connected here.
Sorry, Senator, I beg your pardon. I thought you were finished. You asked, how many people have done that trip that you did. Had many?
Very few. I think the people who came back to me said that they had done it more out of interest and that they were intrigued as opposed to out of necessity. And I think that tells a story in itself. So, and certainly talking to my family and relatives, I think no one had ever taken the train. So certainly, we need to, this is about ensuring that we can sell rail, like as in, people in Donegal need to get used to the experience of rail because they've never had that experience, unless of course you're anyway close to Sligo and then it is an option. But I think, for me, there's two things that need to happen here. We absolutely over the longer term need to see investment into rail in Donegal. But
come here, we're only one jet. A lot of our parents would have travelled on the trains within Donegal. Do you know what I mean? So it's not that far removed since they decided in their wisdom to shut them down and to rip up the tracks. There are a lot of activity in terms of trying to, as you'd be aware, Sligo to Letterkenny to Derry. The people of Inishowen would feel very left out in that as well, of course. But the public appetite is there. It's the political will that seems to be absent, and particularly maybe even from it would be helpful, I think, if in Rodarin said that we want to provide this service, but this is what we need from government to do so. There seems to be no will beyond that of the public and some public representatives that speak on their behalf for this.
Yeah, and I think, look, there's been probably a failure of imagination over many years. There's been almost an acceptance that that there won't be rail links from Donegal to the rest of the country, and we need to change that. And I'm very clear now in all my conversations around the country, particularly amongst younger people, amongst people my age and younger, that they want alternatives, that they don't want to be solely car dependent, that they want to be able to, I suppose, have options. And so, we do need to push central government, both in the Republic and in the North, to be bolder on this. And in fairness, I know that there was investment when the A5 was floundering. I know investment was redirected into improving some of the rail links along the north then. But the key issue now is that, and that was to do with the train stations, of course, along that Derry-Belfast route. But the key issue now is how do we actually ensure that there is a faster route, a cheaper route, and a viable route for people when they do need to travel out of the county. And I certainly will be lending my support to any campaigns locally in a bid for better rail services, because Donegal needs it, it deserves it, and I think this is about thinking, being realistic, and that's why I say in the first instance, let's this is an underutilized resource on people's doorsteps in a particular part of the county. Let's better use that, right, or ensure it's better used, and then let's make the case then for actual investment into new rail lines or reopening those rail lines that haven't been open for 60 years.
Right, so it was how long did you say the journey was?
4 hours and 40 minutes.
4 hours 40 minutes?
Yes.
And £33 for the pleasure?
Yes.
Okay. And did you come back on the train?
Oh, no. Well, interestingly, we drove up on Wednesday as a family, and the experience of being stuck outside Strabane and Oma, certainly had us all very frustrated in the car. We had 3 small kids in the back of the car, so as you can imagine.
I can.
The thing is, again, I suppose, and for us, the car is typically the only way we would only ever travel. But I had to come back on my own on Saturday night and the train. And I'll tell you, I'd certainly be doing the journey again. If I was not under time pressure, I'd absolutely be taking the journey, because it's extremely pleasant. The carriages are beautiful. You can read, you can move around, and certainly, I've become a fan after my first experience travelling, by rail from Donegal to Dublin.
All right. Listen, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. I don't know if that would be practical. I mean, you could probably travel to your local airport, Derry, or knock, fly to Birmingham, Manchester, or London, and get a train to your hotel in less time than it would take to go from Derry to Dublin. But she is saying, the Senator is saying, that it could be speeded up a little. I don't know how much by, but £33 to sit in a train for 4 hours and 40 minutes. I think I'd need to get that and then some. But anyway, what do you think? Is it a viable alternative? Maybe it's, if for some of you who travel to Dublin, it's the only way you might do so. 086 60 25,000, WhatsApp or text. Give us a call at 07491 25,000. All right, I mean, the bus is there. Can you still not use the toilets on buses, though? I was speaking to a couple of people, and I'm not sure if they just happened to be on the wrong type of bus, but there were toilets on the bus errand buses, and they weren't allowed to use them. And we've talked quite regularly on this programme of it's not just a convenience, but the need for people to use toilets more frequently than others might. It would be, does our bus network actually not allow you to use toilets? If anyone has an insight into that, let us know. 086 60 25,000 or call 074 91 25,000.
Most people say that Donegal is the coolest place on the planet, but up here we know that sometimes it can be the coldest. Charles Bunner & Sons Ballybuffet is the one-stop shop for all your heating needs. We have a huge range of multi-fuel and wood pellet stoves and ranges, spare parts for all major stove and range brands, plumbing and bathroom ware, all at exceptional prices. So visit our showrooms where our friendly and experienced team will be ready to help you. Charles Bunner & Sons Ballybuffet and the stovestore.ie, where you can always do a good deal better.
Brian McCormick, Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. Try the new Brooks Adrenaline GTS 22 with the latest update on cushioning and stability. Brooks Ghost 14, offering a soft landing to ensure comfort. Ghost 14 Gore-Tex will also keep you dry. Every move you make is a step in the right direction with a pair of Brooks trainers. In-store or online. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
Passengers boarding for the holiday of a lifetime, please go woo!
Highland Radio wants to send you on the holiday of a lifetime.
Worth €10,000.
Plus $5,000 spending money. Woo!
Get your ticket now at highlandradio.com. Answer the question and start packing. Start packing.
Woo-hoo! Draw takes place April 14th on the 9 till noon show.
Start planning your ultimate getaway. Only on Highland Radio.
Sheridan Security now introducing Zero Wire Smart Alarm Systems. Zero wire, zero mess, and a real peace of mind. With a simple press of a button, your alarm can be set or unset, or download the free app and control it from your phone. Call us today on 074 912 6025 and get your alarm from €299. Stay local, stay safe, and protect what you value most with Sheridan Security Systems.
Now we're joined on the programme by Senator Pauline O'Reilly, chairperson of the Green Party. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator. Nice to see you. Nice to speak to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, now, as people might be aware, an agreement was reached, decisions were made that would see the closure of mink farms. And of course, this is something that's very relevant to County Donegal, Laois and Kerry also as well. But it's taking a long time, taking too long. Was it not the case that we were waiting until, that the farming of the mink, that it sounds awful even to say it, but the farming of the mink that were already in these farms for that to naturally come to a conclusion and then their closure, or what's the situation?
Yeah, there's no natural conclusion, unfortunately.
Well, what I was trying to say is that the mink that are there are unfortunately killed and their hides taken from them. I was trying to avoid it saying that, but that's what we're talking about.
That is what we're talking about, but even with that, every year in mink farming, 80% of the mink are killed, and it's only 20% that are kept for breeding, and then the numbers grow very, very rapidly. So what has to happen is that we have legislation in place to stop it, and in order to ensure that the farmers themselves get compensation, but also that the workers there are fairly, would have some sort of package. But for that to happen, you have to have legislation. It has to be properly the end of their business. And that's what this legislation is about, to end the cruel practice, which is universally acknowledged now at this point is a very cruel practice, but also then to ensure that you have the winding up of the businesses in order to protect the staff. So that's what had to happen. The legislation was brought into the Dáil in October, and it's run its course through the Dáil, and it's now in the Seanad, and it's stalled, and it's been removed several times from the schedule, and that unfortunately has brought us to a position where we're now in the middle of what would normally be breeding season for mink, and it's not ideal, to be honest with you. And it has caused real frustration because this is a programme for government commitment. And so, I really feel now that it's time to push on with it. And I would be hopeful that the warning shots that were released from ourselves, but also from others in government, would ensure that we can now press ahead with this.
Well, your government colleagues told you that really this is about the welfare of workers, the delay to ensure that they get the owners of these farms and the workers get a fair deal. Are you buying that?
Look, I mean, the Minister has also been in the Seanad, Minister Mcdonald, and has said that, there is an urgency around this as well. There has been an independent report into how the compensation is done. That's the correct way to do it. And that there's absolutely no doubt but that there will be compensation for workers and for the farmers. So, if these concerns were there, they could have been raised several months ago, and any concerns that have been raised have been addressed. But you absolutely can't put into a piece of legislation in monetary terms how much people are given, because that is down to an independent assessor. But there's all kinds of elements in the bill that will say people will be compensated for, not just for loss of earnings, but for demolition costs or for repurposing of their buildings. So there's a whole host of things that will have to go into it. So I do think that it is questionable that there has been these delays, and that it has been removed several times from the schedule. As I say, this isn't the way that you conduct yourself in government, I believe. And I think that now is the time that we actually do ensure that we're ending the cruel practice and we're being fair to everyone. I mean, it's 22 years ago it was ended in the UK, and we're still here in Ireland and delaying it into the middle of a breeding season.
I mean, obviously, and that is your priority. But I mean, this also was, and as you mentioned, this was a key issue for the Green Party going into government. Do you feel that your fellow party members of government have been a bit disrespectful to the Greens on this issue, to try and sort of make out that it's really about looking after the workers? Really,
Well, look, I mean, there weren't these issues when it came to the Dáil, so I think this probably does come down to a couple of people. And as I say, I don't think that this is the way to do things. I certainly know that the Minister Mcdonald, is keen to push ahead with this. So it's not a case that it's everyone in government. But as I say, I do think that it's not respectful to anyone, including the animals themselves, to delay it for this length of time. But, the Minister has agreed to sit down and has sat down with all of us to work through what the concerns are. And I would be hopeful that this week we will see that this bill will move forward now properly.
Just while I have you might, not sure if you've seen an article in the Irish Mirror today. They've calculated how much bad gases, carbon dioxide gases, the St. Patrick's Day trips from politicians, how much of an impact that has had. In fact, since 2019, it was 50% higher, the amount of these bad gases that it was required to ferry our politicians around. And in fact, Hildegard Naughton apparently was the worst offender, because her visits to Australia and New Zealand emitted at least 5.49 tonnes of CO2e, which would be the equivalent to your average Irish household's contribution to this problem over a course of 6 months. I mean, it's a bit of a slap in the face to us, the public, isn't it? Particularly us in rural Ireland, where we're being taxed out of our cars but have no alternatives. We can't come up with 25, 30 grand to retrofit our homes. And yet we've got politicians, including, the Greens Minister Naughton, flying all around the world, contributing more to this problem than most of us will in our lifetimes.
Well, there's a few different things that you wrapped up there, Greg. Firstly, in relation to the tax in relation to fuel, that is, there's a floor set by the European Union, and I know that the Taoiseach is trying to ensure that we can reduce things further.
But I'm on about our policy. It's pretty much accepted that you discourage the use of these fuels through taxation. Okay, so I'm not talking necessarily about the situation we find ourselves in now with the terrible events in Ukraine, but we're being taxed to try and encourage us to transition. But obviously we don't have an awful lot of alternatives. But anyway, sorry, carry on, Senator.
Look, it's really important, though, to be factually correct, because, sweeping statements aren't going to get us to where we need to be.
Okay, so correct me.
Carbon tax in particular is very, very low. And I think, that politicians need to be honest about that. It's incredibly low. The real issues, as you say, are around the taxation, which we can't reduce because of our European Union commitments. But we are trying to see what we can do at a European Union level. But in relation to the flights, I mean, I absolutely do take your point on board. And I think it is difficult for people to see. But we haven't stopped international flights, and that's never an intention to do that. We are an island nation. We do have to build up. We would be very pragmatic, and certainly we have to ensure that we have an economy. That means that we have to build relationships. But I think that we need to be investing in different types of fuels, green hydrogen being one of them, for instance. We're not there yet. And I don't think we can shut down our borders and say, let's not travel.
No, of course not.
I don't think people would like to hear that message either.
Of course.
And I certainly wouldn't say it. And look, I'm Galway. I know exactly what it's like when there aren't alternatives there. Our job is to try to put in place alternatives, but also.
But let me suggest. Okay, as an example, right? If your party were to lead truly by example, how about, we employ the services of our diplomats or our people that we have in Australia and New Zealand, which I'm sure we're paying for. They're located there. They do a lot of the groundwork. And Hildegard Naughton join one of those meetings via Zoom. So we have our Irish people already out there working on the ground. And if the minister, if it's important for her to speak, to join via Zoom, there is how we could save at least 4 or 5 flights from one person. Is that not logical?
I think the vast majority of these things are happening over Zoom. But when it comes to St. Patrick's Day, I think most Irish people would acknowledge that it is a different kind of situation. It's not, an ongoing kind of meeting, and that sometimes we do need to be pragmatic. As I say, we're not closing our borders at all, and that sometimes we do need to move outside our country in order to be able to meet people face to face. I certainly know that.
You believe you genuinely. So you, as the chair of the Green Party, right? You actually think genuinely that it was advantageous for, say, for instance, Hildegard Naughton to travel all of that distance, right, rather than to come up with an innovative way to use our Irish people in the ground, and for her still to make an appearance via Zoom or whatever. You actually think that would not be a better way than what she did?
I wouldn't be fair for me to comment on one particular person such as Hildegard Naughton. I think it is a long distance. There's no denying that.
But you're justifying it. You're justifying it.
On a principle, Greg, though, I think, like too many people say the Greens should do this, the Greens should do that. And everybody, all of us are in this together. And we do need to look at, broadening the conversation and not shaming people for their use, for the fact that people go on holidays, for the fact that people sometimes we do need to use cars because we don't have everything.
Okay, let me just. But you have to remember too, right? And I'm not into cheap shots. And Eamon Ryan said this or that or the other. But you do have to remember that we have been told by Eamon Ryan to slow down. Okay, we've been told to carpool, that in rural villages we should consider carpooling. Okay, so I'm just suggesting to you in reverse as someone who might say, you know what, I could actually vote for the Greens because they took a stance here. They didn't take that long distance trip. They used our Irish people on the ground, our diaspora, our business people, our diplomats, and they come up with another way to do something that led by example. And then I could go, do you know what? I can do that. I might follow what they're saying because they're not doing something different to what they're asking of me.
I think that in some ways you've made, you're making a good point in some ways that we do have to come up with innovative ideas, but we also need to be practical and pragmatic. And I think you'll find that Eamon never told anybody to carpool. He just suggested that there are alternatives.
I'm simply suggesting there was an alternative to your ministers travelling abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes there is, and sometimes we do have to do the face-to-face stuff.
Right,
and we have to be honest about it, because, I'm a Green, but it doesn't mean I live in a bunker somewhere. We all live in the real world, and we have to make the changes for the whole of society. That's what our job is as politicians. It's not to just stand on a high horse, but it's actually to say, if there isn't enough public transport, let's invest in that. Let's invest in greenways, let's invest in cycleways, and let's invest in alternatives, so that everybody can do it, so that it's not a few people making a decision not to go somewhere, because that does come across as a little judgmental, to be honest with you. And I don't think that that's the position that any of us are really in. And if you meet Green politicians, I think that we are practical people who just want to make the change, and that change be a change that everyone can participate in.
Thanks for your time this morning. I appreciate it. I really do. Okay, that was Senator Pauline O'Reilly, chair of the Green Party.
Hello, Grace. Where are you heading?
Down to Made to Measure Fireplaces in Creasla.
Made to Measure Fireplaces? Didn't you just buy a fireplace there?
Yeah, but I'm going now to pick my kitchen worktop.
Create the kitchen and living room of your dreams at Made to Measure Fireplaces and Granite Worktops. They've been in business for over 40 years. So for help choosing granite or quartz for your worktop, fireplace or stove, visit the Made to Measure showroom at Cashel Creasla or see mtmfireplaces.com or on Facebook.
For confirmation and First Communion, see the great selection of suits, casual wear and footwear at Watson Menswear, Letterkenny. Top brands, including 1880 Club, Lyle & Scott, Farah and Diesel. Also Tommy Bow footwear, and all at great prices. Whatever the fit, whatever the style, confirmation and First Communions are covered. For less, at Watson Menswear. Open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny, and at watsonmenswear.com. Also, great end of sale bargains still available.
Bluebird Care are looking for you. Bluebird Care are currently seeking carers and nurses to join their ever-expanding team. Immediate starts for carers in all parts of the county, especially Letterkenny, Inishowen and Donegal town. Bluebird Care are also looking for registered general nurses for day and nighttime 12-hour shifts. Contact Bluebird Care on 07491 29562 or visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
Pet Value Ballybuffet has just got bigger. Yes, we've opened store number 2 at St Mary's Road, Buncrana. And to celebrate, one lucky customer will win €1,000 off home heating oil. Simply call into the store during March and you will be entered into the draw. Pet Value are open Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. till 6 p.m, Sunday 12 till 5. With fantastic offers across both stores. Pet Value, your one-stop shop for all your animal needs.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Get ready to hit the beach and soak up the sun by choosing flights to Alicante, Barcelona, Faro, Mallorca, Malaga and Milan this summer with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport, you're flying.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Okay, you're welcome back to the programme, and we welcome a number of guests onto it now. First, we say good morning to Katerina, who has arrived in Donegal last week from Ukraine, having to flee her country, which was a very different country only a few short weeks ago, and we're all witnessing firsthand what is happening there. Katerina, thank you for joining us, and welcome to Donegal.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for your hospitality. So I'm here, but I'm here more as a translator because, like my story, thanks God, it's not like such a hard experience, a hard explosion, but I left Kiev myself on 21st of February. But I want to represent some people here who experienced some crazy, hard period of war.
Yes, and that takes its toll because obviously there's the upheaval, there's the loss, there is the worry for those that remain and for the future, and that uncertainty. There's an awful lot for your fellow country people to try and contend with at the moment, Katerina.
Yeah, so first... Yeah, sorry?
No, okay, sorry. I know this is not your first language and it was a complicated question. I'll come back to you in a moment, but I also want to say good morning to Arten. Arten, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Right, you came from Poland on Tuesday. You had left Ukraine some time ago, but you were able to bring your family out of your...
My family members and my friends who lives at Kiev.
What was their experience?
It's bad experience, I think, because at morning at 24, I call my mother. She told me war is starting conflict on the Russian and Ukrainian. It's terrible because it's shock just me and my family. At this moment I call my mother and say you need to quickly arrive to Poland.
Mm.
But my father, think it's not too long war. He think it is to make me 2 days, 4 days, and quiet and comfort come back. But I think it's not true.
Arten, obviously we knew what happened 8 years ago and what's happened since then, and we know the language that was used by the likes of Putin. But did you ever think that you would ever see the invasion of your country on this scale?
I think this is conflict starting more early. When its conflict started, Georgia have problem with как он называется? В Грузии, Abkhazia. After it Moldova, Moldova can start in Prидnestrovia. After we have problem with Syria, after we have problem at Ukraine, at Lugansk, Donetsk, and Crimea. Crimea. It's problem to start in more time ago.
And let me ask you finally, are you hoping to reunite your family here? I believe your partner and father remain in Poland. Your mother and son is here. Are you going to be able to reunite, and if so, how?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Are you hoping to have your family together soon?
Yeah. I waiting. I speaking all day with my wife and my father because my father как будет подменять меня на работе там. Change. He changed my work at Krakow, and we wait for something needs for we finish it.
Okay.
I'm waiting for my friends from Belarus. He wanna live to and rent a flat where we live. Lived before.
Okay. Arten, listen, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it, and well done. I know it's not your first language. And Katerina, as a translator, that is one of the challenges for millions of Ukrainians now into a new country. Obviously, all the upheaval, but also communication, Katerina, is difficult.
Yeah. So right now I want to tell a story from Tatiana. She was in Bucha. You know, Bucha is right near here, Kiev, and there were very big bloody battles there. So right now she will tell me her story in short, and I will translate it for you.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Я сама доктор из Бучи. Мы проживаем в квартире, да, многоэтажного дома. На тот момент, когда началась война, нас не было в квартире. квартире, да, но мы рядом находились в поселке. Когда объявили про войну, нам надо было попасть в Киев. Там была наша мама прооперированная, ее нужно было забрать. Естественно, дорога лежала через Киев, через Ирпень и Гостомель. Киев через Ирпень и Гостомель.
Okay. So, Tatiana, she is a doctor from Bucha, and when the war started, she needed to come back to Kiev because her mother had surgery maybe a couple of days ago. So she is supposed to take her mother and bring her home to Bucha.
Когда мы ехали в Киев, мосты, Гостомельские мосты еще не были взорваны, но стояли танки. Мы проехавши их, да, забравши маму, которая находилась уже в бомбоубежище, да, в то время, потому что авиаудары были уже в Киеве, и Гостомельский, Гостомельский, скажи, аэропорт, да, был разбомблен в тот период уже. Возвращаясь назад, мы не могли вернуться, потому что мосты уже были взорваны. Гостомельский, Ирпенский мост, то есть назад мы не могли проехать. То есть мы какими-то другими путями долгое время объезжали, попали уже в поселок, и там мы остались.
Okay, so when she was on her road from Bucha to Kiev, they saw Russian troops all over there, and they were so scared because to see Russian soldiers and Russian tanks. But thank God they didn't shoot them. They went to Kiev, pick up her mother from a bomb shelter. But where they were on the road back to Bucha, Russian troops blow up Gostomel airport and blow up all bridges, so they couldn't be back to their home, so they stayed just in one village nearby.
And finally, Katerina, can you ask what are her emotions? Does she feel safe, or is she still incredibly upset? Or can you give us an understanding of how she feels now?
Как вы сейчас себя чувствуете? Вы чувствуете какую-то веру в будущее или вы напуганы? Как ваши эмоции?
Естественно, напуганы, потому что мне с дочкой удалось уехать. Мама осталась, потому что после операции ни сидеть, ни стоять она не может, да, только может встать и лечь, то есть таким образом. Мама находится в одном поселке, папа в другом поселке. После того, как мы приехали, мы не смогли их соединить, потому что нужно было за мамой уход, да. Таким образом, после этого мы оказались в кольце, в оккупации, да, то есть поселка. То есть мы не могли в Бучу попасть, не могли вот там с поселка в поселок заехать, потому что везде их блокпосты русские. Они не пропускали, да. Если ты хочешь выйти из дома, ты не можешь. Да, или расстреляют, или в заложники заберут.
Okay, so actually she still be very scared, and she is all the time 24/7 she is in touch with her family, and she is worried because her mother, she is after surgery, so she needs special treatment and she cannot walk, she cannot sit, she cannot stay, only lay down. Her mother is in one village and her father is in another village, and they cannot gather together because all over there in each village there is Russian block post and also Chechnya troops, and if you want to come out of your house you will be either shoot immediately or they will take you, like they will put you in a prison, like take you as as a slave or whatever, like they will just take you to their base to serve them.
Unbelievable. Katerina, if you could pass on our best wishes, and hopefully something is, the powers that be can come up with some solution. I appreciate your time this morning, I really do. Thank you so very much indeed. Apologies, we're going to be a couple of minutes late to the news. A brief word with Councillor Michael McMahon, who has been helping receive these refugees, these Ukrainians, into Bundoran. And we can hear there, Michael, that whilst on a personal level there is some reprieve, they're still very much connected to the horror and to their families facing that horror over in Ukraine. And then, of course, away from home, language barriers and what have you.
Greg, it's very, very sad to listen to the stories, and all the stories that we've heard so far are very, very sorry, sad and very hurtful. There's 125 here in Bundoran at the moment, you know, and they are getting themselves composed and get themselves sort of organised. It was a big job. They started coming in Wednesday, and I think the last of them coming on Saturday day there. We're doing our very best to make sure that they're being well looked after and been taken care of. It's a big job. It's very sad when people arrive in a country and have only got their clothes on their back. That tells its own story. But the people of Bundoran and the surrounding area have been very, very generous, and we're very happy about that. They opened their hearts and they opened their houses and they opened their minds, and the stuff that's coming in is unbelievable, and I want to thank them personally about that. Very tough to listen, as I said, to the stories. As you have heard there, war is a terrible thing, and this is unbelievable that this can happen in the 21st century to people who have been just massacred in their own country. Will be very well taken care of here in Bundoran. There's a lot of professional people there, teachers, doctors, nurses, electricians, different people there, you know, so hopefully in the later stage when we get everything sorted and get them things going, that they will get employment here. But at the minute it's a very bad and very sad story on a Monday morning.
It is indeed. Councillor Michael McMahon, thank you very much indeed. Okay, my apologies. We are going to the news a little late, 5 minutes late in fact, but it just wanted to hear those people's stories. Apologies to Donald. News on the way, then the obituary notices, and Reid Jonas thereafter.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the Highland Radio News Desk. Ukrainian forces in the port city of Mariupol are refusing to stop fighting after rejecting an offer from Russia to surrender. Moscow claimed that if Ukraine's soldiers laid down their weapons, it would allow for the safe passage of civilians out of the besieged city. Conditions there have been described this morning as hell on earth. Authorities in Mariupol say Russian forces bombed an art school where 400 people were sheltering. In Kiev, meanwhile, at least 4 people were killed during a bomb attack which gutted a shopping centre. However, an assessment by British intelligence claims that Russia's advance on the capital city is stalling. Sky's special correspondent Alex Crawford is on the outskirts of Kiev. She says the centre itself feels secure.
People are definitely beginning to come back out onto the streets. Even shops and some restaurants are opening. They feel quite secure, I think, right in the centre. But even from where we were, we could hear the volley of explosions late last night.
40 business leaders attended a Donegal business breakfast in the London borough of Islington at the weekend. It was part of a series of Irish community events organised by the area's Donegal-born mayor. The business event was coordinated by Donegal County Council's Head of Economic Development, Anne-Marie Conlon. Speaking in London, she told Highland Radio that the ability to act as a bridge between the UK and the EU is a major selling point for Donegal.
Donegal has come on so much in the last 20 years, and I think what's really important is our cross-border location. We're in the EU, but we're right beside Northern Ireland with access to UK and Northern Ireland markets, and I suppose when we're connecting with businesses in London, what we're saying to them is, look, this is a great location if you want to access the EU. We're right here on the border with Northern Ireland, so the people of Donegal are really comfortable working in those two settings, and that in itself is it's a key selling point.
A Dublin-based senator says it's time to start a serious conversation about a Derry-Dublin rail route. Senator Mary Sherlock, a frequent visitor to Donegal, says while she supports long-term plans for the expansion of the A5 and also supports the idea of a rail link from Letterkenny to Dublin, she believes with express trains and an agreement between TransLink and the Irish government, a high-speed rail service from Derry to Dublin via Belfast would be feasible and could be achieved quickly. She spoke to Greg on this morning's 9 till noon show.
Over many years, there's been almost an acceptance that there won't be rail links from Donegal to the rest of the country, and we need to change that. But the key issue now is how do we actually ensure that there is a faster route, a cheaper route and a viable route for people when they do need to travel out of the county. And I certainly will be lending my support to any campaigns locally in a bid for better rail services, because Donegal needs it.
Gardaí are continuing to investigate the killing of a mother of 5 in North Dublin. 36-year-old Sandra Boyd was shot dead at the back of her family home in Finglas on Saturday night. Gardaí are investigating the theory that her killing was accidental. And almost half of children with Down syndrome have had no vital early intervention services in the past year, according to a new report. Down Syndrome Ireland also says 40% had no communication from the HSE in the last 12 months. Almost a third of survey respondents received 0 speech and language therapy sessions, which are developmentally crucial. Today is World Down Syndrome Day, and DSI CEO Barry Sheridan says it's essential that these shortages are discussed.
We're seeing huge delays, we're seeing huge waiting lists. We're seeing really poor lack of communication in some areas. And, you know, when you've got parents of young children with Down syndrome and they're waiting, you know, almost 3 years to get any services, you know, we've come so far as a society. It's just not good enough, really, that, you know, we're still waiting.
Looking at the weather forecast, after a cloudy and misty start in many parts of the northwest, it'll be mostly dry today with a mix of cloud and some sunny spells shining through. Highest temperatures will hit 12 to 14 degrees Celsius this afternoon, mostly moderate southeasterly breezes. Tonight, mostly dry with a mix of cloud and clear spells. Lowest overnight temperatures 3 to 8 degrees Celsius. Some mist patches forming in light to moderate southeasterly breezes. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we'll see some better sunny spells. It'll be dry for much of today, but during tomorrow afternoon, we may see a few showers. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock. Good morning. The obituary notices for this Monday morning, the 21st of March. The death has occurred of Derek Gallagher, Mean Moor and Key Road, Dunlow. His remains will repose at Midlands Funeral Home from 5 o'clock this evening, with rosary at 9. Viewing tomorrow from 3 to 5:30, followed by removal to St Columba's Church Acres for 6 o'clock, where he'll repose overnight. Funeral Mass on Wednesday morning at 11, with interment afterwards in Belcritch Cemetery. The death has taken place in Woodley, Reading, England, of Patricia Patsy Gill, née Logue, formerly of Malin, County Donegal. Funeral arrangements will be confirmed later. The death has taken place of Eddie Herity, formerly of Knocknafoher, Dunfanaghy. His remains will arrive in St Michael's Church, Creasla, tomorrow evening at approximately 6 o'clock to repose overnight. Funeral Mass there on Wednesday morning at 11, followed by burial in Doe Cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on mcnmedia.tv. The death has taken place of Maura Harkin, née Gallina, Strand Court, Buncrana. Her remains are reposing at her home. Removal tomorrow morning at 9:15 to St Mary's Oratory, Buncrana, for Requiem Mass at 10 o'clock, followed by interment in St Mary's Cemetery, Cockhill. Family time, please, from 9 p.m. to 1 p.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Nazareth House Patient Comfort Fund, care of any family member or Murphy Funeral Directors. The death has occurred of Rose Sharkey, Carrow Cannon, Falcarra. Funeral Mass this morning at 11 in St Finian's Church, Falcarra, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. House private, please, before the funeral. Donations in lieu if desired to Portnabla Patients Comfort Fund, care of any family member or Sweeney Funeral Directors, Falcarra. Funeral Mass can be viewed on MCN Media, Falcarra, or Sweeney Funeral Directors Facebook page. The death has taken place in her 100th year of Kitty Hoody Beag Gallagher, Taverna Hoody Beag, Bunbeg, and formerly of Hore, Crawley. Funeral Mass in St Patrick's Church, Meanawheel, this morning at 11, with burial afterwards in Gallery Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu to Crumlin Children's Hospital, care of any family member. Kitty's Funeral Mass can be viewed live on the Kieran Rorty Funeral Director Facebook page. The death has taken place at his home of Dominic Rorty, Creasla. Funeral Mass in St Michael's Church, Creasla, this morning at 11, followed by burial in Doe Cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on mcnmedia.tv. Family time, please, before the funeral. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Oncology Unit, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member or James Harkin, Funeral Director, Creasla. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
And you are very welcome back to the programme. Keep us busy on those phone lines, 086 60 25,000, WhatsApps and texts, or give us a call, 07491 25,000. A caller says, Highland Radio, not giving a balanced view on Ukraine this morning. I'm sure there are Russian people living here. It'd be nice to hear their views. You presume that all Russians think the exact same? I don't understand what you're talking about. Are you talking about maybe the events leading up to the invasion? We've talked about that extensively on this programme. Or are you saying there is justification for bombing children and their families? I don't know what side of it that you type us out a text. Let me know what you're saying. You're saying this is justifiable. I don't know whatever went on before, but I don't think anyone could justify the level of destruction and the loss of innocent lives. And I also would strongly suspect that all Russian people do not think the same either. We don't think uniformly in this country. Why would you presume that the people of Russia think uniformly as well? A caller says, surely they first place these people whose weddings have been cancelled despite deposits being paid should be to their solicitors. Well, their solicitors, they're I'm not sure of the T's and C's. I don't know what the ins and outs of that is. Greg, it's amazing that Zoom would work exactly the same from Dublin to the White House as from Blair House to the White House. That comes in from Mary. Green Party, hang your head in shame. That person trying to defend the Green Party don't practice what they preach, but sure, we'll just put the tax on the people and still use our diesel cars and fly around the world. The people will pay for it. It's the defence of it, saying, no, this is the right way to do it. Your suggestion of trying to do something with a little bit of innovation is wrong, which I find quite remarkable. The Green Party shouldn't be worrying about the planet as they clearly live on a different one from the rest of us. Greg, as usual, do as I say, not for that I do. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Why was the bill delayed in the Shannon? The mink farmers have been getting millions in Udrith grants for over 40 years. I'm not quite sure if the figures are correct, but I don't know why there was what the delay is. Hi, can you ask that senator, can she campaign to remove VAT on Donegal residents' fuel bills until there is a train service in Donegal? Shame on our government. Yes, let's tax the government into a decision, in a reverse type of way. A recent bus journey from Donegal to Dublin Airport took me 4 hours, not much difference. And when I booked the return ticket, I booked 3 p.m. in case there was any delays, but then I was in on time. They wouldn't let me get the earlier bus despite the bus not being full. Good morning, Greg. Hope you had a great St. Patrick's break. I'm on about the price of petrol and diesel in the garages in our towns. They never took the 20 cent and 50 cent off the pumps. It's not very fair. I think at this point, whether it was going to happen anyway or because, the public were very vocal on the issue, I think for the most part, from what I've seen, that reduction has been applied. But obviously we can't speak for all towns and villages. Greg, I've nothing against Ukrainians and my heart does go out to them, but why aren't these places opening their doors to the homeless people in our country? I've seen people on Facebook saying they had a spare room in the house for anyone having to flee their country, and how hotels, now hotels offering rooms, but how many homeless people are there in Ireland suffering and not a bit of help offered to them? I think we should look after our own first. Let's look after everyone together. If we're taking in 100,000 and there's 10,000 homeless, but the situation can be a little bit more complex than that, and I think if you look at the situation, you might understand that solving the homeless problem it's difficult. But where there is a will, there is a way. That has been proven. But as I say, I don't think it's a case that we don't help others and only help our own first. Let's say, right, well, if we can do this for others, let's do it for everyone. I don't think it ever has to be an either or an or. Right. Everyone's saying how great these hotels are at housing Ukrainians. They're letting locals down, though, that have events booked. That's one person's feeling. I don't know how it affects staffing, by the way. If we have an opportunity to speak to someone from the hotel group, we'll put those questions to them. Obviously, there might be questions about staff. Maybe more staff might be employed. Are staff being let go? I don't know. But until we get an opportunity to speak to someone, we can't answer or ask those questions. The people that have had their bookings cancelled by McGettigan should take legal advice. This is, they believe that there's a financial motivation to it. Are McGettigan's getting paid to host the refugees? I imagine so. As I say, if we get an opportunity to speak to someone from the hotel group, we shall ask that question directly. It's a business and they're helping the government out. I think it would be expected that they would receive payment. What that payment rate is struck at and for how long, maybe we'll never find that out. But I mean, it's not being done, I don't think, and I'm open to correction, through the goodness of the heart, if that makes sense. Okay, we are going to take a break for the bingo numbers and rejoin us after.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Mortgages now available with a personalised service from your local and friendly credit union. Email mortgage@letterkennycu.ie.
It's time for Ncbi Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday the 21st of March. You're playing on the green sheet. The reference number is S16. It's game number 12. The numbers are 74, 73, 55, 6, 64, 89, 85, 63, 81, and finally 87. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
If you've got magic moments or great memories captured on your smartphone, now is a great time to have them printed at mcgees.ie. Simply upload your favourite photos, choose your size and finish, and McGee's will take care of the rest, with the results delivered to your door. Prices are from just 12 cents, and there's also creative options available. Preserve your memories today at mcgees.ie.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
You'll find all the best toys at Foy's Ballabufet. Discover great value on all the latest toys, ride-ons, bikes and Bear go-karts, with new deliveries arriving every week. Great offers on best-selling brands like Lego, Fisher-Price and Barbie. With new deliveries every week, you can get all the fun shipped to your door, with free delivery on orders over €75. Shop local and find everything you need at Foy's Ballabufet, or shop online at toysatfoys.com.
Looking for a flexible, affordable home improvement loan? From your kitchen renovation to getting your garden barbecue ready, B&S Credit Union's Renovate loan is ready to go. For loans from €5,000 to €70,000, visit their website at bnscu.ie or free phone 1800 290 390, where their dedicated and experienced loans team will be delighted to help you. Loans are subject to approval, terms and conditions apply. B&S Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme. Now, news broke towards the end of last week about P&O ferries. They'd cancelled all their sailings at very, very short notice, and then, of course, let an awful lot of staff go in a not a very humane manner, many of them just being told via video call that their livelihoods with P&O had come to an end. Lisa McDade was affected by this as a passenger and joins us now. Hi, Lisa.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm okay. You're from Newtown, Cunningham, and tell us how the events unfolded. You had your booking. How long before you were due to sail were you notified, and then what happened?
Well, we actually weren't notified at all. We had actually pulled up to the port to check in. Our boat was, the sailing was 12 o'clock, and we pulled up about 11 o'clock, and the lady just says, listen, sorry, P&O's not doing any sailings today. She says, we don't know what's going on, what's happening. She handed us a little card and says, for any complaints or refunds, try and get in contact with somebody there. She says, I wouldn't try today or tomorrow. She says, I would leave it a few days and go and try Belfast to see if we can get on the Stena line.
And I mean, your gripe would be with the company itself. I mean, that member of staff you were talking to may have been told that day that their job was gone.
Well, that's it. I think the staff that was actually in the booth, they weren't told nothing. They were just told that the ferries weren't sailing and that they had to advise people of alternative routes. She says, and that was what they got told, and that's the message that they had to pass on.
Right, so did you find an alternative route, and how long did that take?
Well, yeah, we had to actually rebook the whole boat again, so we had to rebook with Stena. So we were meant to be sailing at 12 o'clock with P&O, but we didn't get sailing until 7:30 with Stena. But Stena's boat, because it had so many passengers and so many referrals from P&O to come over, that it didn't leave until, I think it was about 20 to 9 in the evening.
Wow. Was it much more expensive than the P&O?
Yeah, far more expensive. It was about €120 more expensive.
Okay. So you're still awaiting, I presume you're still awaiting your refund from P&O because they made a decision. You're out hundreds of euro.
Yes.
Are you hoping, or are you going to try and recoup that from P&O?
Well, yeah, I actually booked it through Donegal Travel, so I've been speaking to a lady through there who's been wonderful, and she's dealing with it all for me for getting, the refund back, and she just says, look, put everything in an email and all the expenses and things that occurred over the day, because obviously we didn't expect to be hanging about a whole day before travelling, So she has been wonderful, and she's doing it all for us, but it's just whether we do get a refund or not, or, how is it going to work?
Yeah, but if you get the refund, though, the battle might be actually trying to get the, your out-of-pocket expenses covered. But you're prepared to keep at it, to get that money back, to claw it back.
Oh, definitely, without a doubt, because it just put a whole uproar on the schedule, because, we were meant to be in Scotland at 6 o'clock that evening, and sure, we didn't arrive here until, I think it was about 2:45 in the morning.
Wow.
So it just kind of put an upheaval on everything. It kind of just knocks your day away and all the rest of it. But I spoke to a journalist when we were up at the port.
Yes.
And I had said to him, I says, look, do you know what's happening? And he says, look, we knew from about 5 o'clock in the morning, because P&O had grounded all their boats from everywhere they had them. And then I thought to myself, well, if that was the case, I think it would have been manners to just send out a little email or text saying, listen, the boats aren't sailing today, you'll need to find alternatives.
Especially considering that the company wasn't going into liquidation. It's going to continue its services, I presume. This is not... it was handled very poorly in terms of the communication seemingly with customers, and of course the awful way they treated their staff. That's going to have an impact on the company going forward. As you say, things happen, but you shouldn't have found out sitting in your car at the port.
No, that's it. You shouldn't have. Do you know what I mean? But what I had found out later on was that the later sailing that P&O had put on, they had actually transferred all their tickets over to Stena. So the people that were booked on the later boat didn't have to pay. Their tickets transferred over. But the 12 o'clock boat, they didn't, because it was kind of all up in the air at this time. Nothing.
Yeah, it would have been a slightly easier pill to swallow if your booking had just been transferred.
For sure, because we're sitting at the minute that we're €900 out because we've paid for 2 boats.
Okay.
It was just crazy, and the poor staff. The staff were coming coming out the port. And, you could see the devastation on their face. They were absolutely devastated. They got told that they're losing their jobs over a Zoom call, a pre-recorded Zoom call.
And the wording on it, for those of you, I think, what was it? He said, today's your last day of employment. I mean, it was just the way in which it was done. It was awful. Okay, well, Lisa, keep us updated if you have any success in... I mean, I'm pretty confident you'll get the refund, however long that might take, hopefully sooner rather than later. But it'll be interesting to see, and I hope you're successful in recouping some of the expenses that, through no fault of your own, you had to incur. Lisa, you're back in Scotland now, though, anyway?
Yeah, I'm coming home now this evening. I'll be back in good old Newton this evening now, so...
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, please. Fingers crossed.
All right, safe journey, Lisa, to you and yours. Thanks very much for joining us. That's Lisa McDade, heading back from Bonnie, Scotland, to Newtown, Cunningham this evening.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features, delivered with the same local trustworthy service of your credit union.
DreamWorks characters have landed in McDonald's Happy Meal. Are you a chatterbox like Donkey from Shrek? Or maybe you're an expert in martial arts like Kung Fu Panda. Or do you love to dance like Poppy from Trolls? Be proud to stand out like the DreamWorks characters. Some fun, some food, it's all inside this Happy Meal. Available until the 5th of April. Subject to availability. Served from 11 a.m. Book or toy choices between toy or book, not the specific item or range.
Call her mum or mam, ma, mummy? At Aldi, we have the perfect gift for her this Mother's Day. In-store March 24th, Mother's Day tulips $4.99 and magnificent mum bouquet $14.99. In-store March 26th, lasting love bouquet $29.99 and in-store now Costalore Prosecco Rosé $12.99. She deserves to feel special this mum's day. Aldi, bring home the love this Mother's Day. Get the facts, be drinkaware, visit drinkaware.ie.
For indoor and outdoor fun, Tinny's Toys have something for everyone. From pedal and electric ride-ons to go-karts and scooters, there's loads of fun guaranteed. Also swings and slides, trampolines, goalposts and so much more. If you have a kid's birthday coming up, Tinny's Toys can help make it special. Visit Tinny's Toys on Leck Road, Letterkenny or shop online for express delivery at tinnystoys.com. Tinny's Toys, with so much more than just farm toys.
Store and Go Springtown Dairy, the north of Ireland's only temperature-controlled smart access individually sized storage units.
Store and Go offers storage for personal storage, house moves and renovations, business storage for excess stock or filing systems. Once signed up, you can access 24 hours a day through an app on your phone, gaining access through 4 levels of security to your most precious possessions.
Call Store and Go Springtown Dairy on 02871 278 900 to discuss your needs and get bespoke advice or get a free quote at storeandgo.net.
Glebe Gallery Open Art Competition is back after 2 years. Artists wishing to submit for this year's Glebe Gallery Open Art Competition should bring their artworks to the Glebe Gallery, Churchill, Letterkenny on the weekends of the 26th and 27th of March and the 2nd and 3rd of April between 12 and 5 p.m. Artists can submit up to 4 artworks and the entry fee is €4 per piece. The exhibition will open on Good Friday the 15th of April at 4 p.m. and all are welcome to attend. The exhibition will run until Sunday the 24th of April. Admission to the exhibition is free, pictures must be framed and ready to hang if selected. Further details are on the Glebe House and Gallery Facebook page.
Okay, you're welcome back to the programme. I want to say a very happy 18th birthday to Aveen Doherty, who is in Hilly in Buncrana. Lots of love coming into you from Granny Tricia. Can you please wish Charlotte Connor, Knock, Ballabafay, a very happy 5th birthday for today from Mammy, Daddy, Garvin and Kieran. And I'd like to congratulate my granddaughter, Aina, I beg your pardon, Kirby from Burt on passing her driving test yesterday. Love from Debbie, Eddie, Alicia and Keane. Well done to you. All right, let's take some music. We promised to play this one last week, but between the jigs and the reels, we didn't get around to it. It's the Travelling Wilburys. Back in 3 or 4 minutes. All right, that's the Travelling Wilburys. It's the end of the line. Okay, back with our next guest. In fact, we're going to be talking history with Dr. Joe Kelly. We're going to talk about our history of neutrality. Where did it come from? And where perhaps it's going. So it's about history, but it's also about the future. Stay with us. It's hopefully going to be an interesting conversation. It always is with Joe Kelly.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Now offering mortgages from 40,000 to 600,000 euro with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Visit Derry and experience a world of difference just over the border. See the historic walls, the waterfront, and the famous chill-off licences at Da Vinci, White House, Coolmore, Hatmore and Shantallow, which, for some reason, have suddenly become the #1 attraction. So visit Derry and leave with more than just memories. Please drink responsibly. See drinkaware.ie.
There's amazing deals every week at Watson Hire in Letterkenny. Great specials in tools, hardware and homeware. If you're a tradesperson or you're doing a one-off job, you'll find everything from power tools to hand tools and paint to work clothing. For great weekly deals and a great selection, visit Watson Hire at Kiltoy, Letterkenny. For more information, visit the Facebook page or see watsonhire.ie.
House to Home Bridgend, Donegal. Our modest front door opens onto 2 floors of Irish-made furniture, suites, beds, mattresses, dining and occasional furniture. Step into our showroom and see how we can transform your house into a home. House to Home furniture, flooring, slide robes and interiors, Bridgend, Donegal.
Forward Emphasis International, based in Mallinhead, are actively recruiting for customer service advisors with both permanent remote working and hybrid opportunities available. Experience in contact centres or insurance services is desirable but not essential, as full training is provided. Fully funded financial services qualifications delivering attractive career path opportunities are available. Please visit their website www.forwardemphasis.ie or apply via their careers page.
Are you thinking of selling your home? At Robinson Estate Agents, we currently have clients waiting to buy properties due to relocation to Donegal. Call for a free valuation and find out more about the benefits of using an estate agent with over 25 years experience. You can also avail of our free professional marketing campaign. Let Robinson Estate Agents maximise your sale value today. For more information, call our offices in Letterkenny and Dunfanaghy on 07491 20990. Robinson Estate Agents. Working for you.
Okay, time to talk history now with Dr. Joe Kelly, who is conveniently a historian for the purpose of this segment. Joe, good to see you again. How are you keeping?
Good, Greg. I hope you can all hear me loud and well.
Loud and clear. Dr. Kelly, we're having this conversation again, Joe, about neutrality, and there are people that feel that a conversation was already happening maybe about our neutrality. I mean, listen, we're not politically neutral. Our neutrality in the past has been quite flexible, and who's to say where we're going? I might get your views. I will get your views on that in a moment. But I was mentioning, I think last week or the week before on the show, the Donegal corridor. I'm not sure how that settles with our neutrality. And then, of course, we have and we do allow US soldiers to land in Shannon and their onward route and whatever else might go on. So can you talk to us a little bit about our history of neutrality?
Well, you see, it depends how you define neutrality, and that's where, in fairness, a lot of our political elite and our academics have been very untrue in many respects defining our neutrality. If we go back, first of all, to World War I, 80,000 Irishmen, they believe, died in World War I, and over 200,000 men partook in World War I without conscription. But once conscription was brought in and made law in Ireland, it wasn't enforced, but it was made law in Ireland, there was a massive backlash. And it was then really that Sinn Féin became a very prominent political party, because people then understood what it was that the men and women were 1916 were about. They were looking for a republic where we could be self-determined and define our own nationhood. And we were not to be signing up to joining in an army or be forced to join an army. And for that, then, really, that conscription crisis put Sinn Féin aligned with the Catholic Church, and you saw a lot of them publications of the time seeing the bishops and Sinn Féin TDs all going together. So the whole history of 1960 merged beautifully into, look, you can be a Catholic and at the same time shout for a republic. And so then when we did get independence, the question was, where was Ireland going to stand with this? And there's nowhere in our constitution where it says we are neutral. Believe it or not, it's an aspiration that we have, that we are non-militarily aligned, and that's terribly, terribly important. And to be honest, most politicians, since we joined joined the EU in the 1970s, one could honestly say from Sean Lemass right nearly up to the present time, or Taoiseach, have said, oh, yeah, there's no such thing as neutral. We're on neutral Ireland, because they want to be part of an EU which also has, apart from CAP and fishery policies, has to have a military budget. And so how can Ireland be part of an EU that has a military budget? And so they're telling the European leaders, look, we have no problem with this. Yet they come home then and try to sell us treaties. For example, the Lisbon Treaty, where there is monies put aside for armaments and so forth. And the people of Ireland have voted these down because of the concern of neutrality. So what I'm trying to say is there's a difference between neutrality and military neutrality. We are not morally neutral, for example, when it comes to Ukraine or to any other situation of war. But that does not compromise our military neutrality. And as a nation of people, like Ireland's known the world over as a nation of missionaries, of doctors, of caregivers, of aid givers. We do not need a gun in our hand to broker peace. And putting guns in our hands is going to achieve nothing. But our politicians, our political elite, some of our academia and some of our media have been trying to push this agenda that we're not militarily neutral, or we're unneutral, which is very unfair. We are morally very much on the side of Ukraine. We are morally not neutral, and we never were.
What's the difference between neutrality and being non-belligerent?
Yeah, well, see, this is the point. Non-belligerent is that we're not actually physically taking up arms to fight for one side or the other. And like there's a lot of research done on this. There's a brilliant article written by Karen Devine, a postdoctoral research, and she critiques Irish neutrality. See, Gareth Fitzgerald and other people have previously put out this idea that neutrality in Ireland is a myth. It is no myth. In fact, our neutrality arguably is superior to that of Switzerland or Sweden or Finland, or Austria for that matter. We have been very, very clear always that we are not going to arm ourselves to attack. But that, again, doesn't mean to say we will not arm ourselves morally, that we will say what is right and what is wrong, and we're very, very clear with this.
But you talked about legislation where there's no legislation necessarily in the statute book, but part of the Nice Treaty, there is an article inserted in the Nice Treaty, is there not, where it sort of expressly says that we are not taking part, I can't really find the words correctly, but we aren't going to be part of any European army. I mean, is that the closest we have to an official standing on our status in that regard?
Well, it's more an aspiration. And in fairness to Simon Coveney, our Minister for Foreign Affairs, he's been very clear in it and very strong, thankfully, saying, look, we are not going down the road of military alliances. And now is maybe not the time for having that conversation. That would be the way he would look at it. I mean, and realistically, Greg, from a neutral point of view, in the sense of military neutral, we know as a nation what it is like to be conquered. We've never conquered a nation. We know what it's like to be brutalized, to be murdered, to be suppressed. We know what it's like to be exiled. We know what it's like to be a refugee. We have that history. And no country better than ours understands the plight of other countries in war situations.
Okay,
so we
of course. And a lot of people feel that, we have an understanding of it now because there's part of this island that is under the control of another state. But in terms of, you say we don't take sides, right? But if we facilitate other countries in their wars, we are taking sides, are we not?
Yeah, well, see, this is where you can't.
Now, we might not be picking up a gun, but if
Yeah.
you facilitate the travel through your country of another person taking up a gun, I mean, can we really use the word that we're neutral, really, with a straight face?
A brilliant question, and therefore, if we use that criteria, and this is what criteria do we use to define neutrality? And if we use the criteria that you're saying, then Switzerland is not neutral and has not been neutral. Sweden is not neutral and has never been neutral. This is what I'm trying to make the point. For example, during World War II, Sweden allowed Hitler and his army to move up through Sweden. The Swiss did the same. So look, there's in a sense, you were talking about the belligerents, there has to be a sense of a sliding scale of realities here, where in the case of Sweden or Switzerland and with Ireland in regards to England during World War II. I mean, it was the weather that was read at Mayo that gave the information for the D-Day landings. We weren't morally neutral, but we weren't taking up a gun in our hand. And I think that's the point. And realistically, there seems to be some kind of agenda being pushed. Are we really saying that we should put guns into our Irish army's hands to take on Russia? I would far rather, we've never had peace with guns in our hands. And we know this from Northern Ireland, whether it's the guns that were under the table or the legalised guns that were above the table in the hands of the British Army. We could not have peace with guns in our hands. And so Ireland being a neutral, militarily neutral country, can argue a very high moral point that very few nations in the world can. That's the beauty of it.
You've actually just led into my next question, because, obviously we can back the Ukrainians and what they're going through and what have you, right? But you talked about us maybe having a unique position. Why do we not use that? Why are we not... there's always the talk of the fact that the Good Friday Agreement is looked upon internationally as being sort of like a blueprint for what can be achieved. You've talked about our status in what's going. Like, why, I wonder, are we not being used in some way or other, or why are we not asserting ourselves on the national stage to try and be the brokers of a solution or peace? Maybe I'm being naive in that question, but we are a small country, but I think we have a decent international standing, but we're not. Instead, really, it feels like we're being walked into a European army. We're sending out flak jackets, and I know that is for peacekeeping and all that kind of stuff, but the direction of traffic seems to be not us adopting a role as a neutral country using that, but for us to be moving in a different direction.
Well, here's what I would do. And I think it's time for the Irish people to prove their neutrality. And I think the place it has to start is with our president. And this might sound fanciful, but I genuinely believe this. And there's been opportunities before for our president to do this, and they have failed to do so. And I'm thinking of, for example, our president. Or if I were president for a day, I would call Biden and Putin. I would get in touch with the EU leaders. I would talk with China. Do that within a week. If I had to travel to their countries and talk with them, I would. And then I would invite them all. I would have a World Peace Conference.
A summit of some description, or a conference.
A World Peace Conference in Freedom Square in Kharkiv in Ukraine, and ask the world leaders to come there with me and stand there. And as little neutral Ireland, as the president of neutral Ireland, I would stand there shoulder to shoulder with President Zelensky and other world leaders. Invite the Pope to come there and call out for peace.
But in reality, right?
But we have to have someone call for peace.
Of course we do.
We know in Northern Ireland.
But if the truth be told, do we have that independence? Could we do something like that without the country's leaders checking it with France, checking it with Germany, even checking it with the UK? Do we truly have that independence to make those type of decisions, or do we have to run them past the powers that be, who perhaps have already decided, as best as they can, how this is going to play out? And that would just be meddling.
Well, first of all, our president is a citizen of this country and has the freedom to do anything as you or I would have. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we do not need the imprimatur of any other country to talk the words of peace. We are a neutral country, and we can go out there and fly our tricolour and call for peace. And let the people of Russia know, let Putin know, let the belligerents know that we are not there to cause war. We are there to cause peace. And this is the level it needs to be at. And, it's not just Ukraine that we need to talk about. We need to talk about the economic wars. There are other countries suffering because of policies of other countries. And our neutrality gives us a unique position to claim the high moral ground.
But
and we are
let me ask, because I wasn't making it very... What my point is are we, though? Can we make... of course we can and possibly should, but I just wonder, politically, would we upset our European cousins? We wouldn't be acting sort of in coalescence with the rest of the union. Of course, the president can stand up and say whatever the hell he likes, but I wonder politically if we would get a slap on the wrist for doing such. Whether we should, whether that's right or wrong, that's not my point. I just wonder how independent our government and our president truly is to take the leads that you talk of.
Well, first of all, and I hear what you're saying, I couldn't care less about the other European countries and what they believe with regards to this, be it militarily or any other way.
That's not my point. I'm on about what is the situation, not what we like or what shouldn't be or what is, but I just wonder, do we have truly that sort of independence to do it?
Absolutely. We are a sovereign nation in our own right.
Yeah,
our president is the first person citizen of our country, and he has the freedom to do this. And if we have to embarrass other countries into bringing peace, so be it. We should lead the way, and we have led the way internally in Ireland by our funding, by our welcoming of 20,000, opening up our homes. We have shown morally that we are not neutral on wrong, but militarily we are neutral, and I think it puts us in the position to do something. And if our president would do this, it would be an amazing thing to do for Ireland. And maybe Micheál Martin, rather than looking for a bowl of shamrocks and a photo opportunity with Joe Biden, should go and look for his photo opportunity with the people of Ukraine in Ukraine and show how neutral we really are. Look, we've had decades of violence in Northern Ireland, and we knew and we know that there was only peace brokered when the guns were gone. We cannot have peace with guns in our hands. And as a country, we don't need guns to broker peace.
Okay, right. What I mean, looking to the future, and I know we talked to you about history, but you obviously have an interest in what's happening out into the future. Do you think, though, regardless of what some might say, the tone of conversation, it feels like we are being walked into a European army?
Oh, I agree with you. I think that no disrespect to yourselves in Highland, I think there's certain elements of the media, certain elements of our political elite, certain academics that would like us to go down the way of war, the way of guns, the way of violence. This is not Ireland. We have, as I said earlier on, we're a great people for missionaries, for doctors, for aid, for charity, for kindness. We talk the truth, we talk peace, and we hate war, we hate injustice. We've been torn for centuries. We've been bludgeoned for centuries by a conqueror. And it's not within our psyche. War is not what we want. Okay. War is not what we want. We are people of peace. And I genuinely do believe that there is a danger that we're being led down a garden path towards a militarization of Ireland. We don't need that. And Irish Army are known worldwide as great peacekeepers. And I'm very, very proud, as many are, of our Irish Army, going into situations with the UN and others to keep the peace, because they know we're not on either side.
It's just been It's been an interesting couple of months, because firstly a report was published giving us our three options. Do we invest in our army? Do we do this? Do we do that? Next thing you know, Ukraine is invaded, and then the conversation is ramped up a little bit. It's interesting times. Dr. Joe, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really do appreciate it. That's Dr. Joe Kelly, who's a historian, talking there about our our history as a neutral country, where it's going. And where it might end up. Okay, we'll be joined by Minister Charlie McConalogue after this short break.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Mortgages now available with a personalised service from your local and friendly credit union. Email mortgage@letterkennycu.ie.
At Centra, we're at the heart of the community, so we go to great lengths to help you live your best life. Fresh bread, finest meals, fantastic offers, all the good feels. Not to mention a fabulous wide range of our own brand favourites. And as for off-licence, we've been to the four corners of the world so you can enjoy the best wines and beers locally. At Centra, we've got everything you need. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy sensibly.
Bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €5,050 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
Donegal Hearing Clinic, now open at Pierce Road, Letterkenny and Buncrana. Now offering state-of-the-art rechargeable hearing aids free with your PRSI. Also pain-free microsuction wax removal services. Call 07491 88470 or donegalhearingclinic.ie. Life sounds brilliant with Donegal Hearing Clinic.
With passengers boarding for the holiday of a lifetime, please go
Highland Radio wants to send you on the holiday of a lifetime.
worth €10,000.
Plus £5,000 spending money.
Get your ticket now at highlandradio.com. Answer the question and start packing. Start packing.
Draw takes place April 14th on the 9 till noon show.
Start planning your ultimate getaway. Only on Highland Radio.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Now flying to 19 destinations this summer with 7 days car parking from just €30 when you book online. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okie doke, let's have a look at the weather forecast now then. Today a mix of cloud and some brighter sunny spells. Any lingering overnight rain is died out at this stage, becoming dry apart from the odd shower. Temperatures 12 to 14 degrees. Right, we are joined on the programme now by Minister for Agriculture and Marine, Charlie McConalogue. Good morning to you, Minister. Thank you for making the time for us this morning. I know you're under pressure, so we appreciate it.
Good morning, Greg.
Now, is there any update in terms of our, before we talk about this, any update in terms of, there's a lot of conversation about we need to be growing more grain and, a bit of certainty in terms of supplies. And I know a lot of work's going on in the background in that regard. Is there any update or any news as to planning or anything?
Yeah, well, there has been a lot of work on it. I set up a National Fodder and Food Security Committee, which has been meeting over the last couple of weeks, and also been engaging with my own team in the department, Greg. It's a big objective to try and ensure that we do grow the amount of grain that we, or increase the amount of grain we grow this year. It's something I'll be discussing and bringing some proposals to Cabinet tomorrow on as well. For cabinet support. So I think a good number of farmers actually have shown a strong willingness to actually that would have had some experience of this in the past. Importantly as well, those who are in tillage are open to the idea. So given that we import 60% of our grain, it's important we try and grow that given the supply chain challenges that are there as a result of what's happening in Ukraine.
Do you feel that we are in any better a position, given this awful situation, and we don't know what's going to happen next, to, as best as we can, ensure that farmers can do their work, be it, their inputs that we have to import or grow, and in terms of, the cost of, because we've been speaking to farmers who feel that and those working in the agri sector who feel that they don't know if they can continue because of the costs with fuel, even just fuel. Do you know what I mean? Do you think we're going to be able to come up with some sort of a solution?
And listen, I'm working closely with the sector. Obviously, there's real pressures there in terms of cost at the moment. We're seeing both in terms of, inputs, grain, fertilizers, fuel going up, and that's putting pressure on the sector. And I'm working with the team in my department in terms of how we can support that over the next period. The most important and urgent piece of that is how we can support farmers to grow more grain, and that's the first piece I'm prioritising. The biggest priority and biggest thing that every farmer can do this year, though, is work to maximise the amount of grass that they grow and ensure, particularly we plan ahead for next winter and spring, to ensure that the grass and fodder supplies are in place. And grass is the most important aspect of that, but also looking to increase grain. So I'll be working very closely with the sector. And key to that was putting that national committee in place really early on in the season, as soon as we had the opportunity to ensure that we plan ahead and work together.
Okay, and just by coincidence again, our news is going to be a little late. I do apologise for those of you waiting for that. We'll get to it in a moment, because there is an important issue as well, ongoing and one for the future, and that is efforts to crack down on unfair trading practices in the agri-food industry. I think a lot of people would be well aware of what's going on. What do you think needs, talk to me about what you think needs to change and how we're going to change it?
Yeah, well, listen, I'm at an EU Council meeting here today in Brussels, and it's been an important part of the work that's been going on at EU level. But really importantly, taking that forward and stepping that up at national level. One of the key policy priorities I've had, Greg, is the introduction of a food ombudsman or regulator office. And tomorrow I'll be bringing a memo to Cabinet to step that forward further. I've engaged closely with all in the sector and with farmers and all stakeholders in relation to how we can establish an office that has real teeth and that can ensure that there's transparency right throughout the food supply chain. So from where food leaves the farm gate and the work that our farmers do to where it ends up on shelves and plates, that we can see what's going on in that process. And really importantly, with the objective of ensuring that the farmer is getting fair play and a fair income as part of that, because they do massive work, really, really hard graft and time put into it. And then there's a lack of clarity for many farmers, which is really frustrating in terms of what share they get. So
and they take the hit for, they take the hit for loss leading practices, say, for instance. Do you think that this office, this role, will put an end to that so that, if a company wants to discount certain products, they're free to do so, but it will not be at the expense of farmers? Do you think that will be achieved?
Yeah. That's the key objective here, to ensure that there is transparency and a light shone on what's happening, and that you have an independent office with the statutory legal basis to carry out that function, and with the credibility that comes with that as well, to ensure that there's fairness there. And I think everybody when they're going to the supermarket and putting food in their plate, want to ensure that ultimately that farmers are getting a fair play as in advance of it landing up there, because your average person very much respects and appreciates how difficult it is to produce that food. But it has been a real challenge in recent times. It's led to disruption, and we remember the beef protest 2 or 3 years ago as well, which very much emanated out of a lack of trust and lack of insight as to what was happening, and ultimately, really importantly, from the fact that farmers weren't getting a price that delivered a profit for them. And that's something, as Minister, I've been working really hard in terms of the policies I've put in place to support farm families and incomes, and this office is a key part of that, to try and ensure that transparency is there and the farmers get fair play.
Very finally and briefly, we had the chair of the Green Party earlier on expressing her frustration at the pace of the winding down of the mink farming industry. Obviously, you've got a great interest in that. What's the hold up? When is that process going to be concluded?
Yeah, well, it's brought the legislation right through the Dáil, and it's through most stages in the Shannon, just waiting now to go through the last stage. And I'd hoped it would have been through about 2 weeks ago, but there was delays in terms of the Shannon scheduling. So I'm hoping to get that through very, very quickly, Greg, working with Senator Riley, indeed, who knows in the programme this morning, and all my own colleagues and the three government parties to deliver that. It is a key programme for government objective. And so, mink farming and fur farming is very much outlived its relevance. It's not something we believe is appropriate anymore. But what's really important in doing that too is that we're very fair to those farmers who, as a result of the law change we're bringing in, will no longer have their livelihood. And I want to ensure that there's fairness for them. So I hope now that we will have it through, I hope this week. That's the plan, and we're all working across government to try and deliver that.
Okay, Minister, thank you very much for your time this morning. I do appreciate it. All right, it is 3 minutes past 11. Again, apologies to those of you waiting on the news headlines. It's just when people have been available to us this morning. It's just been one of those days. But anyway, we get a news update now by saying good morning and welcoming back onto the programme Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. The number of COVID patients in hospitals has increased by 25% in the past week. There are 1,308 people in hospital with the virus today. That's the highest figure in more than 13 months. The Department of Health hasn't given an update on the number of new cases across the country since last Thursday because of the long weekend. Dr. Dennis McCauley, a Donegal GP, chairs the IMO's GP committee. He believes that the increased socialisation over the St Patrick's weekend will mean we'll see an increase in the numbers in the coming days. Police in Strabane are trying to track down a driver who was involved in a cross-border incident in the early hours of yesterday morning. Shortly after 1 yesterday morning, police were mounting a vehicle checkpoint on Lifford Road in Strabane. The driver of a grey-coloured Seat Leon failed to stop. He drove across the border into Lifford. Gardaí were alerted. The vehicle wouldn't stop for them. It drove back across the border into Clady. Police eventually deployed a stinger device on Ernie Road. The vehicle came to a stop, but the driver fled the scene. A number of drugs were detected at the scene in a follow-up search. Ukrainian forces in Mariupol are refusing to stop fighting after rejecting an offer from Russia to surrender. Moscow claimed that if Ukraine's soldiers laid down their weapons, it would allow for the safe passage of civilians out of the besieged city. Authorities there say Russian forces bombed an art school where 400 people were sheltering. The city has been described as the epitome of hell at this point in time. In Kiev, meanwhile, 4 people were killed during a bomb attack which gutted a shopping centre. Amnesty International has warned that the trial due to start next week of a soldier for a Troubles-related death could be the last Troubles trial if plans for a de facto amnesty are enshrined in law. 51-year-old Grenadier Guardsman David Jonathan Holden will appear in court in Belfast next week, charged with the manslaughter of Aidan McAnespie in Auchnacloy, County Tyrone on February 21st, 1988. And a Dublin senator says it's time to start a conversation about a Derry-Dublin rail route. Senator Mary Sherlock, a frequent visitor to Donegal, says while she supports long-term plans for the expansion of the A5 and also supports the idea of a rail link from Letterkenny to Dublin, she believes with express trains and agreement between TransLink, Stormont and the Irish Government, a high-speed rail service linking Derry and Dublin via Belfast would be feasible. And there the headlines. We're back with news headlines again at 12 noon.
Okay, Donald, thank you very much indeed. Back with our next guest shortly. By the way, coming up a little later on, we've got... I'll tell you about that after the break, actually. We'll be back in a moment.
Buying or moving home can be a strange mixture of excitement and stress. So the last thing you need is worrying about conveyancing. Time to call McElhenney & Associates. They'll move that property transaction along swiftly, make sure everything's in order, and prevent any nasty surprises. Residential, commercial, leasing, or voluntary transfer. Call today on 074 917 5989 or find us online. We'll do the paperwork, you do the wallpaper. McElhenney & Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. How can we help?
Years ago, I used to dread my motor insurance renewal. Then a friend told me about O'Malley Scanlon Insurance in Ballybofey and Dunlow. They do all the hard work. They contact all the major insurance underwriters and they get the very best possible quote for me. They have saved me a small fortune over the years and they could do the same for you.
When your insurance comes up for renewal, contact O'Malley Scanlon Insurance at their Ballybofey office on 9131020 or their Dunlow office on 952206. O'Malley Scanlon is regulated by the Central Bank.
The Groom's Room is now open and taking bookings for all you grooms getting married. Contact us at Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park.
Yeah, I think if you try to design a garden too much, it's artificial looking then, and we'd better to say go along with the garden. We see these gardening programs, don't put this colour beside that colour, and don't. I think that's a lot of nonsense too. Like, a plant looks nice no matter what colour it is.
That's Down the Garden Path, a new series Wednesday nights on Highland Radio, after the news at 8 p.m.
Okay, so earlier we heard the well-intended calls for a formalisation or establishment of a Derry to Dublin train route. It exists, but it's long and it's expensive, I think. But I think this has already been discussed in the past, as Councillor Paul Canning can bring us up to date. These weren't the first calls then, Paul, or the first time we looked at the possibility of, setting that up as a viable route to the Dublin, to the capital.
No, definitely not. Greg, we have always, or one of our priorities within the cross-border group, to try and see to get a link completely right around the country, So, roughly about 3 years ago, we actually got a presentation from TransLink, and the person there, the boss of TransLink, I think he was Richard Knox, was the man's name. He at that time, because he had got lobbied by the councillors now regarding just the cross-border group, to give you an indication, the cross-border group consists of 5 or 6 councillors from the Donegal side and 5 or 6 councillors from the Derry Strabane side, and then you have all the chief executives and the directors of service, etc. So both chief executives at the time and the councillors all lobbied to see if we could get express train or whatever from Derry to Dublin. At that point in time, he said in relation to it that he would need an investment of about 80 million. Now, this is 3 years ago. And he says that 80 million, now the way he put it, he says if he got an investment of 80 million, it would take 2 minutes off the time. He says that's the sort of money you're chatting. So the other thing that he had stated that he also needed investment for loops to increase the frequency. So we don't have the actual proper infrastructure to actually put an express.
It's just not a case of putting more trains in the same tracks. You have to logistically figure out how they can pass.
He says it doesn't work. You know, he says it would cost too much. You'd have so many loops, and as he said, at that point in time 3 years ago, there was 80 million needed to take 2 minutes of it. Now we there and just so happened in our January meeting, we have because of the way we're going now with all this, you know, the Project Ireland 2040, the National Development Plan, the Northwest Regional Assembly, spatial strategies, all these strategies, they have to be in place now before you can actually get pound notes, as the man says. So we actually we opened up, we have submissions now to what they call an all-island strategic rail review, which is basically what we're having to do now is we have to get an assessment for a feasibility study. And what we had
a feasibility study, does that involve whether or not it would be used, whether or not we could afford to whether or not the investment would justify the return? Is that when we talk about feasibility studies? Is that what we're talking about too?
And the thing about it was the CEO said that we can't base our figures on what exists because they're non-existent. So we're struggling to get a bar to start off with. But in relation to the actual Donegal, what was going into the feasibility study was also to look at the new rail connections, which was kind of the Derry to Dublin, but it also was Derry to Sligo, and then we had the internal network with Derry to Letterkenny and also Letterkenny to Strabane. I know that's not connecting the whole of the west of the county, but that was our starting point. So we've actually sent forward a document stating that these are the area that we have to do a feasibility study and see how it all works out. You know, but
all right, we'll see. I just feel particularly with the Greens in government that, you know, this is something would be nice to see being driven from the top down. You know, it's great to see that some exploration is happening, but it sounds aspirational to me, despite everyone's best efforts, and I'm not undermining that, I hope. But I can't understand why, you know, we're not getting a top-down approach here to say, look, this is something we have to do. This is the future, you know, rather than this crap of us having to make arguments for it and all that type of stuff. And it just feels like it's never going to happen.
Yeah, well, you see, we have this evening, actually, our corporate policy group we have a meeting with the Arachis members. All of the Arachis members will be at a meeting with us, and this will be one of the subjects that will be discussed at one of our agendas anyway, you know. So there is work going on, but as you know and I know, to get all your ducks in a row, and with the environment, the low carbon, with the climate resilience, all of that now, there's a lot of paperwork involved before you actually get a spade in the ground, unfortunately. But that's part of where we're at with the railway.
All right, listen, thank you for the update. I do appreciate it because it fills in a few gaps for us. Okay, appreciate it. Councillor Paul Canning, 08660 25,000. This week on Highland Radio, our website, highlandradio.com, we're highlighting Neurodiversity Celebration Week, which runs from today until the 28th. Patrick Sharkey speaks to different neurodivergent people from throughout Donegal and further afield about the challenges they have to overcome in daily life. The guests span all four corners of Donegal and tell many different stories dealing with ADHD, autism, dyspraxia, dyslexia and Asperger's syndrome. Daily podcasts available on that website, highlandradio.com, each day at 11 a.m. Through to Friday. So your first episode has just dropped and it's available for you right now, even if it is to maybe better understand the neurodiversity terminology and what it means.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features, delivered with the same local trustworthy service of your credit union.
If you are worried that your alcohol or other drug use is negatively impacting on your life, reach out for support and information. Talk to your GP who can offer support and who can refer you on for further help if needed. Alternatively, call the Donegal HSE Community Addiction Service on 074 9128 769 or the HSE Alcohol Helpline, free phone 1800 459 459. When you are ready to talk, we are ready to listen. Help is out there. This ad has been supported by the Letterkenny Community Action on Alcohol and by the Healthy Ireland Fund, supported by the Department of Health and the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth.
It's not just a sewing machine. For Maya, it's a chance to give her family a better life. It's not just a way to make a living. It's a chance to give her daughter an education. Like thousands of mothers, Maya lives in fear of what the future holds for her little girl. And it's not just. This Lent, your love can make all the difference. Visit trocra.org or call 1800 408 408. Trocra, until love conquers fear.
Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny now has even longer opening hours. Try Kelly's Early Bird Breakfast, one of their great lunch specials, or a renowned Jake's Burger. Kelly's famous steak specials are available every Saturday from 3, with an 8-ounce succulent steak and all the trimmings for just €11. New extended opening hours now in Kelly's award-winning diner at Mountaintop Letterkenny. Check out Facebook for details.
Forward Emphasis International, based in Mallinhead, are actively recruiting for customer service advisors with both permanent remote working and hybrid opportunities available. Experience in contact centres or insurance services is desirable but not essential, as full training is provided. Fully funded financial services qualifications delivering attractive career path opportunities are available. Please visit their website www.forwardemphasis.ie or apply via their careers page.
Fancy getting out of the house this weekend? Call to the Eglinton Market on Sunday from 12 noon at Eglinton Community Hall. Make sure to pop by and grab some handmade gifts, delicious local treats and artisan food. Support your local traders this Sunday at Eglinton Community Hall from 12 noon to 4 p.m.
Okay, it's Monday, which means later today, the latest DL Debate podcast will be released. Its presenter is Brendan Devaney. He joins us in studio now. Brendan, good morning to you. How are you keeping? Of course, you were over in London.
Yes.
You enjoyed yourself, did you?
Busy couple of days, yeah. Very good. Great.
It's nice to see what's going on over there, isn't it? What were... You know, the routes that we've laid over there, the contributions we've made, what we continue to make. You don't really get it until you're there, I think. Well, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, fantastic. Troy's an old school buddy of mine, and Troy well from Muckies Avenue, just down the road from us here. So fantastic to see somebody coming in, and making those type of waves. There he is now with the chain. He's running things in the town hall in Islington. And all the Donegal crew coming over. I mean, Daniel singing the Homes of Donegal there. It was getting very romantic.
I know, it was great. No, it was good, and fair play to everyone. Okay, right, now on to the programme, your programme tomorrow. It's a tale of two Donegal teams, really, isn't it? The ladies pulling out a victory against Dublin. Not the same story for the men, and I think a lot of people thought, are they going to get a couple of late goals and see them over the line? But it wasn't to be. So how are you going to be reflecting on that?
Yeah, just we're going to talk to Geraldine McLaughlin, of course, Geraldine, our current All-Star, on that game. But big moment for Donegal to beat Dublin like that. Dublin were this thing over us, and there was a freakish goal, remember, the other season put us out of the championship against them. So, we were trailing and looking game over with final minutes. 2 goals in 23 seconds. So I think we're maybe due that wee bit of a look against Dublin, and I think it'd be interesting to get Geraldine's point of view. Even though people talk about the league, they're more or less very close to what's going to be happening in Championship. So psychologically, a huge lift for our ladies,
and of course, I don't want to forget, and I wouldn't forget, the hurlers had a victory at the weekend as well, which you'll be covering. But just sticking with the football for a second, I don't know how much in terms of travel or how much of the game you got to see, or to judge on a personal level. What's your take on it? I mean, obviously we were expecting Dublin to come back. Unfortunately, were the victims of that. But
yeah, well, I suppose Dublin, after beating that terrible start and after beating Tyrone in their own backyard last week, a lot of people were a bit concerned about this because we hadn't been playing well ourselves. We had a really poor performance against Monaghan. Something about Croke Park, I think, lifts people and lifts the game. The game's more open. There's more opportunity in it. It's a fast playing pitch, so there always seems to be a bit more action happening. And we had a phenomenal start, Greg. 4 points up, but there was just something maybe a wee bit more settled and controlled about Tyrone. We obviously kicked 7 ways in that first half as well. We get stripped quite a few numbers of times, but that's some of the young lads, and they're still learning it. Like the core of that Dublin team was back and in presence there, and they had 3 or 4 of their top men back too. Probably just had that wee bit of extra for us, but we didn't give up, Greg. It was probably a better performance than most people.
Yeah, but 90% of the fans who pay their money and feel they have a right to have a view on this feel that it's our style of play that's frustrating them and leading to these results. I mean, can you understand where they're coming from? It's how we're setting up, how we're moving the ball around. The approach that we're taking to these games, and of course maybe we'll carry on into the championship.
Yeah, well, I think everybody's kind of playing the same way, more or less. So, we did kick the ball more yesterday, and I suppose everyone will highlight the goal that Michael got. You know, the Ryan McHugh. It was like something that seems like it could happen a lot, but we never do it. We don't do it enough anyway. So having Michael inside and seeing bits and pieces of his platform and how much he causes problems. You still are 3 or 4 players to come back, Greg. You know, you still had some decent performances out there, and one of our biggest problem areas, of course, was at full back, and Brendan McCall just seems to be getting better and better. And you know, funny back to Croke Park, how things can change, Greg. A couple of seasons ago when he made his debut, he's marking a big full forward Newman from Meath, and he didn't even make it to the end of the first half. You know, and my heart really went out to him that day. You know. But he's come back, got better and better, and there he is now. He's one of the best fullbacks in the country at the minute. So there still is positives in there. You know, Keenan McGonigal, the likes of Langan, and these fellas, Oisin Galland. You know, obviously Jamie Brennan not that fit in that. So the focus is, I suppose, getting these lads all back and fit. If we have our full side, Greg, I think we can still beat anybody in our day. And of course, it's coming down to this last league game now. You know, there's 5 teams can get.
There's a lot of variables, isn't there?
A lot of variables. The only 2 variables is playing in our way, I suppose, is the head-to-head. If you end up in level points with the likes of Tyrone or Kildare, really, you've beaten.
But we don't know what kind of teams people are going to put out as well either. So even until match day, we'll not know what the consequences of it all.
We're playing Armagh. We're playing them again in the championship. So that's all a bit.
Exactly. So John Casey from Mayo and Kevin Cassidy of Donegal, of course, they're going to reflect on that. You talked about Geraldine McLaughlin talking about Donegal's the performance of the ladies against Dublin in that League One semi-final, and Mick McCann's on as well to talk about the hurling. Yeah,
listen, Mick McCann, there was a lot of talk for years that Donegal couldn't manage it in Division 2B, and here they are now, potentially going to get into a league final to go up to the next grade, and phenomenal stuff. Gregor hurlers, how much they've come on and been able to stabilise. Before, if they ever stepped in Division 2B, they couldn't cut it. Now they're well able to mix it. So, you know, huge leaps been made by them, and fair play to all.
And an interesting tie against Sligo, a bit of a Northwest derby.
That's it.
All right, that and so much more besides. You can watch it at your leisure. That's the DL debate when the podcast goes live on our website. And also, it's going to be broadcast after the 7 o'clock news this evening.
That's it.
All right, Brendan Devaney, thank you very much indeed. Take care of yourself. All right, as I say, stay tuned for that. That's coming up. Some of your comments as we move on in the programme now. We had a below-cost selling ban. Charlie and his fellow TDs lifted it to let Lidl and Aldi come into this country. No one is to blame for this but our current, and presumably you mean 2 former TDs. That's one person's take on it there. The media are strong in pushing the non-neutral agenda. We win the Nobel Prize for our peacekeeping around the world. Joe Kelly for president says, aye, great man. That comes in from Eileen in Gweedore. What is Ireland doing in the UN? The West has a lot to do with what has happened in the Ukraine Russia dispute, of course. You know, the grounds for a lot of what's happening here have been set for a long time. To all those bigoted Irish, I can only say the more Ukrainians that come to live and stay here, the better, and hopefully influence and raise their morals. I don't think it's bigoted if a decision is made that impacts you personally and you've been treated unfairly. I don't think we should try and hit the mute button on these people. Where people are entitled to feel how they feel, and people are fixing their texts saying that, you know, I understand what's going on. I know we have to do something, but, you know, people have to be able to have an ability or the freedom to speak their minds too. Hi, we don't have a legitimate government to start with, so why should we let them away with their stupidity? That's what the one person thinks. Morning, can you explain to me about census form? I thought it was to see how many people that lived in Ireland. It seems to me that the questions they're asking is to know more about us. How many of us have smoke alarms in our home, or if we rent a house, how much you pay a month, or what kind of heating in your home, what type of sewage you have. like that, what has that got to do with the census form? Whoever writes these questions are nosy, have nothing to hide, but questions are stupid. I get where you're coming from, but the census is far much more than how many people live in a country. It forms policies in all different levels. That's how we know how many people maybe still use home heating oil, or who have switched to gas, or who have tried to move in a greener way. There would be no better way than asking that question, for example, as it relates to how you heat your home. In terms of renting houses, it would give us a true reflection of what we're doing with our housing stock. So I think that's important. How else would you find out how many houses have smoke alarms? Because if 40% of us don't, then you maybe can have a targeted campaign to try and encourage smoke alarms usage, and you can compare that maybe to figures as it relates to domestic house fires or what have you. So a lot of the questions in the census are important, and it's important we engage with it, I think, because it does help us decide future policy. And we are the ones that hopefully might benefit from that. So I don't think it's nosy, it's anonymous. And I get why these questions are being asked, but I also get why some people might question why those type of questions are being asked at all. Dr. Joe is so correct. We, Ireland, should remain military neutral. Since the beginning of time, it's been proven violence only breeds more violence. Another, this man has just said we stand with Kyiv as a neutral, shoulder to shoulder with EU leaders and Biden. Surely neutral must stand between both sides. Well, that's where the conversation stands. Morally, we can say what is happening is wrong if that's what we believe, but we can also be neutral in that we don't take up arms to get involved. Those two things can sit in the same space. Another caller says, why does war and murder and corruption only matter when it inconveniences the West? That's a valid question. Another, I am a farmer. Costs have been going through the roof for over a year. Ukraine is a convenient excuse for the inflation caused by the insane response to COVID. Come on, join the dots. Well, listen, someone who's, if you we're invited regularly to do our research. The whole situation in Ukraine began long before the invasion actually happened, and that was affecting prices. And a lot of those prices are adjusted on the stock markets. They knew what was going on, what could happen. I don't think anyone predicted it would come to the extent it is now, but sanctions were being discussed months and months and months ago. Supplies were being restricted by Russia months and months and months ago. A lot of political stuff was going on in the background. So I think it would be, I'm not saying naive, but to think that Ukraine happened the day Russia invaded, that's not how it works. That's the conversation was happening and decisions were being made, sanctions were being imposed, words were being said that were adjusting oil prices because of what was to come. So that would be my comment on that.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Pet Value Ballybuffet has just got bigger. Yes, we've opened store number 2 at St Mary's Road, Buncrana. And to celebrate, one lucky customer will win €1,000 off home heating oil. Simply call into the store during March and you will be entered into the draw. Pet Value are open Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. till 6 p.m, Sunday 12 till 5. With fantastic offers across both stores. Pet Value, your one-stop shop for all your animal needs.
Darren Brown, the multi-award-winning master of mind control and psychological illusion, is coming to Derry with his brand new live show, Showman, guaranteed to blow your mind. From the 26th of April for 1 week only. Don't miss Darren Brown, live at the Millennium Forum. Book now at millenniumforum.co.uk.
This March, we reflect how COVID has changed death and bereavement in Ireland. Together, we grieve. Irish Hospice Foundation Bereavement Support Line is open for all of us who are grieving. Free phone 1800 80 70 77 to talk to someone in confidence and for a shoulder to lean on.
The Redcastle Oceanfront Golf and Spa Hotel is the perfect location for that special celebration. Indulge in our delicious Mother's Day and Easter Sunday carvery. Make that special occasion magical in our 2 AA Rosette Edge restaurant or have afternoon tea, all with breathtaking views overlooking Lough Foyle. To make your reservation, contact the Redcastle Hotel on 074 938 5555 or visit our website redcastlehotel.com.
Donegal Hearing Clinic, now open at Pierce Road, Letterkenny and Buncrana, now offering state-of-the-art rechargeable hearing aids free with your PRSI. Also pain-free microsuction wax removal services. Call 074 91 88470 or donegalhearingclinic.ie. Life sounds brilliant with Donegal Hearing Clinic.
Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Milford Retail Park, now open. Large range of wall and floor tiles on display and in stock. Over 70 different laminate floors to suit every pocket. Tilers and wood footers available. New bathware showroom now open. Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. 083 091 0707.
Delighted to welcome back onto Highland Radio now Paddy Cullivan, who's going to be performing his show The Murder of Michael Collins in the Bala Theatre on Thursday. It begins at 8 p.m. Audiences are loving it. Critics are raving about it. And Paddy's with us now. Paddy, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us again.
Good morning, Greg. Great to see you.
How are you keeping?
I'm okay. I'm getting there. 2 years of COVID was pretty tough, but this tour seems to be doing really well. I'm sold out in Belfast tonight, and really looking forward to Ballyboufey this Thursday.
Yeah, and I think it's unique the what you've come up with here. In that, and I don't mean this particular show, but the way you do it is that you're entertained and educated at the same time, you know, which is always a good way. But you could remove the comedy from this, couldn't you? And not much like this has been done before in, you know, how you look at it, how you look at the story, how you research it, how you present it. I mean, the comedy's amazing, don't get me wrong, and it works so well. But this is something that you could get something from without that as well. Do you get where I'm trying to get at? You know what I mean? It's like...
Absolutely. I call it historical entertainment, and I open with a little mini film, like a Pate newsreel, where I give people the official history of Michael Collins, what we're taught in schools. And then the following 90 minutes really is the alternative history, which is quite fascinating. The reason comedy comes into it, there is a little bit of comedy in it. There's a couple of songs, but it's because the whole thing is so farcical. The cover-up of his death was a farce. The newspaper reports afterwards were farcical, including where he kept firing after he was mortally wounded. All these kind of weird reports. Last words, he said, when there's no possible way Michael Collins could have had a last word. So the comedy is generated kind of in the show from the farcical nature, but don't be under any illusions. It's a very sad story about a brilliant Irishman who I think was a fascinating character. And I try and get that across too. It's a tragedy and it's a murder mystery that needs to be solved.
I think the comparison has been made to, it's akin to the JFK mystery somewhat before it, but there's some similarities there.
Well, there is. I mean, it's even worse than the JFK. The guy who wants to investigate the death of Michael Collins ends up being shot, Sean Hales, in December. There is no ballistic evidence, no forensic evidence from anything. The autopsy is burned. There's no inquest. There's no inquiry. In fact, it's worse than the JFK assassination in that it was simply completely covered up. And, you know, for years and years and years, people have been trying to figure out what really happened to Michael Collins. Yeah,
for those who haven't seen your full show, Paddy, describe how it's presented, because it's very immersive. You know, between the sounds, the narration, of course, you can see you there in your commentary, the imagery as well. You talked about the musical elements of it. You know, maybe I've actually just described it in my question. You might have something else to add.
Well, there's over 300 images. I mean, the amazing thing about the Collins era is it's the era of photography. And in fact, there's quite a few mysteries solved if you look carefully at the photographs. I'm a visual historian, and that's essentially what I'm trying to do is use the imagery to show people, see, here's what actually happened, you know?
Yeah, indeed. And do you think you're doing something important as well in sort of getting this on the record, getting this story told the way you're telling it, Paddy? Paddy's going to rejoin us in a second now. Love it when someone tries to get in on the Zoom call. But I'm not sure if you got the question, but I'm saying, like, there's something important happening here. Is there in that this is being put on the record. This is, people are learning different elements of a story they thought they knew.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been taught about the death of Michael Collins, that it was a tragic, an ambush that happened in Ballinablaw, that the IRA men, an anti-treaty man, might have shot him with a stray shot or accidentally. I go through it all forensically, and I show you that there's a lot more mystery to this. That, in fact, Sonny O'Neill, the man who was named, we have no proof that he was a sniper at all. And yet he's been named as a sniper for over, 4 decades now. There are other suspect things, like the fact that, he has 25 men meant to be guarding him. They're his bodyguard. He's the commander-in-chief of the country, the most important Irishman alive. And yet he dies and not one of them gets a scratch. Well, one does say he gets a scratch, but when he looks for a wound pension, he doesn't even get that. So it's very mysterious what happened. And that's why I'm trying to take everybody through and also go back to the source material, because you find a lot of historians copy other history books without actually going back to the source and seeing what actually happened.
Yeah.
And I've gone back to the source and found out all sorts of incredible detail and stuff. So think of this like a live podcast, almost like one of those murder mystery serial shows that you might enjoy, but it's live with imagery, a couple of songs, and a film and stuff like that.
Now, do you think the establishment now just accept the story that people are familiar with, or is there an actual resistance maybe to discover the truth? And if so, why?
Well, this is why I'm trying to do it. I mean, Greg, for instance, Michael Collins is buried, he's in Glasnevin, and there have been documentaries going through all sorts of forensic and ballistic stuff, like what bullets hit him and from what distance and all of this. We have no proof whatsoever of any of it. So it is in the hands of the state, really, to find out what happened and to solve this mystery 100 years later, because, I'd rather talk about the great achievements of Michael Collins and his work and his ideas. But unfortunately, we'll always be talking about his death for the next 100 years if we don't try to solve the mystery. There is great resistance to it. And the old Irish thing of, let it lie now, let the poor man rest in peace. When I started doing all this research, and, it was reported in the Irish Times, the work I'd done on Sonny O'Neill, I got anonymous phone calls from people saying, would you let it lie? Would you not let the poor man rest in peace? My question for you is this. Michael Collins, being one of the most forensic people ever, who himself investigated murders and who himself was trying to get to the bottom of a lot of things, including spies among his own friends. Do you think he wouldn't investigate his own murder? Do you think he'd let it lie? Do you think if, let's say, Tito or Ataturk in Turkey or Yugoslavia had been shot 8 months into their reign, that there would be a massive cover-up, that the documents pertaining to anything to do with it was burned 10 years later? This is a huge mystery, and very few people know about it. And I think it's because it's such a hard thing to talk about, because he was such a great person and such an important person. And I almost think it's a bit like the Civil War itself. Brush it all under the carpet. Under the carpet. But this year, unfortunately, we're going to have to remember a lot of things that a lot of people would rather forget.
I've said it before, and with your involvement in Callan Kicks, I've said before that I think some of the most balanced and pointed commentary on politics in this country is done through comedy shows like that. And then we have you open up this conversation in your style, right? And you're a historian, and other people are commentators as well. But why is it, and why shouldn't it, but why does it take the likes of yourself or Oliver Callan, for example, to sort of maybe have the conversations, have the digs, or ask the questions that, we've an awful lot of journalists and historians and writers in this country, and no one else is really doing it?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes it's a bit like, there's a person who wrote a book about this, the assassination of Michael Collins, S.M. Segerson, because she's Irish-American. I think you have to have a slightly outsider's view, because I think the Irish get very emotional, especially in the Civil War terms, whether you're an anti-treaty person or a pro-treaty person. And I think a lot of historians are too close to it. And to them, they're not interested in the death of Michael Collins. They think it's just a terrible thing that just happened. It was just a random event down below. But I think you need to explore it. Oliver came to my show in Dublin about 2 weeks ago, and he really loved it, because his recent stuff has been about Irish history as well on TV. And I think, the reason we need to find out all this stuff is because you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from, and if you don't really research history properly, and if it's just brushed under the carpet and we're told, well, we'll never know, it's a mystery.
There comes a point that just is taken as the fact. That is how history remembers something.
Well, that's
if it's not corrected
story
at some point.
Yes, it's the winner's story. we were told for 50 years, before they come up with the Sonny O'Neill thing, we were told for 50 years that he was killed by a ricochet, which is, you'd almost be winning the lotto. I've had people say to me, oh, he was killed by a stray shot, which means all the intentional shots missed and the stray one hit. I mean, and the ricochet, of course, was a great way of getting everybody off the hook, because the anti-treaty side could say, oh, well, we weren't really aiming at him. And then the pro-treaty side could say, well, we've had the worst security failure in the history of the state. 25 men are meant to protect a guy and stick him into the armored car, and somehow he's 50 meters away from everybody, lying dead on the ground. What happened? And you see, and this element of cover-up, we see it in all aspects of Irish society, Greg. And I think a bit of sunlight is really important in this case.
Okay, well, listen, as I say, audience are loving it, critics are loving it. It's selling out all over the place. Just to read a couple of the quotes, Mary Lou McDonald, amazing work, hard history told with a light touch. Mick O'D, great show, Paddy, scholarly and entertaining, begging for the live stage, superb job. That comes in from Eskin Childers. She didn't just text, they didn't just text it in, by the way. I'm reading it here off a sheet of paper, and so on and so forth. Okay, and I think it's brilliant between yourself and the Bala Theatre that we're getting to see shows of this quality in our area as well, because there would have been people travelled from here to try and go and see you in Belfast. So I think it's great that we are able, between yourself and the likes of the Bala, to host stuff at this level locally. I think that's a great kudos.
Well, it's just great to be back doing live shows, and I'm really happy Connor, straight away was the first one to say, let's put this show on. So I'm really excited about bringing it back to Donegal and seeing all my old friends there. All
right, super stuff. Thanks so very much indeed. Paddy Cullivan there, historical entertainer, former musician actually as well. And it's called The Murder of Michael Collins in the Bala Theatre. It's on Thursday, the 24th of March. It's at 8 p.m. I've seen a short show that Paddy's done. It's nothing on the scale of this, and it's an amazing way that he presents stuff. So this is going to be a big hit. I think there are some tickets available. If you want to go along to the Bala Theatre Thursday night, you can contact their box office there, and we appreciate Paddy's time and his joining us this morning. All right, 086 60 25,000, that's the WhatsApp and text number 07491 25,000. We have another interesting item for you just around the corner. Stay right where you are.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from 40,000 to 600,000 euro with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Hit refresh on your home this spring at Foy & Company in Ballybofey and Letterkenny. Create your perfect home with new arrivals in furniture and beautiful fabrics, paints, wallpapers, rugs and wall art. From brightening up your kitchen to breathing new life into your living spaces, the Foy & Company team will help you create the perfect colour scheme for your home and lifestyle. Book your free online or in-store colour consultation today at foys.ie.
Win with low prices from SuperValu with a great range in-store and online, like SuperValu chilled Valencia orange juice 1 litre only €2. Epic! SuperValu frozen vegetable stir-fry mix 750 gram only $1.19. Smashed it! And SuperValu chocolate chip cookies only 99 cent. Winning! Win with low prices that compete with anyone. Win with SuperValu.
There are so many ways to enjoy fresh Irish hake for everyday or weekend meals. Like mouth-watering baked hake with a herb dressing or delicious hake risotto with basil. Irish hake is high in protein and low in fat, so it's always a healthy, nutritious option. And it's landed fresh every day, so you're supporting local fishermen too. Ask for Irish hake at your local supermarket or fishmonger. And for great recipe ideas, visit boardbia.ie/fish.
Are you working in a sector experiencing change? Contact your local education and training board to explore e-college online courses available to you through Skills to Advance. Choose from a range of online courses in digital, programming and business areas to improve your skills or learn new ones and create new work opportunities. Skills to Advance is a national initiative offering highly subsidised reskilling and upskilling opportunities for employees and employers, brought to you by Sulis and the Education and Training Boards, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €5,050 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
Ireland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Gatwick's back. You can now fly daily to London Gatwick with Aer Lingus, the perfect gateway to explore South London. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okay, right, today will be dry apart from the odd shower, temperatures of 12 to 14 degrees, and I think the weather's going to improve as this week wears on. All right, Monday Matters now. We discussed the new Northern Ireland Planned Healthcare Scheme. It was formerly known as the Cross-Border Directive. We've got two guests online with us now. Gareth Crudden, Business Relations Manager with Kingsbridge Healthcare Group. A very good morning to you, Gareth. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for having us this morning.
No, it's our pleasure. And Pat Harvey, the former CEO of the North Western Health Board, who is helping Kingsbridge develop private health provision in the Northwest. Hi, Pat.
Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to have you. So, talk to us, Pat, firstly, maybe you. Who can access the Northern Ireland Planned Healthcare Scheme? What's the advantages?
Well, first of all, by way of preface, I've always argued that Donegal has been disadvantaged in not having an alternative to the public health system only. We had been planning for private healthcare and so on. Austerity and economic times changed all of that. But by good fortune, we've now landed in a situation where, because of the cross-border scheme, there is, in effect, an alternative private healthcare for all people in Donegal. Not just those with voluntary health insurance, but all public patients, medical card patients. So, in effect, because of the cross-border scheme, because of what Kingsbridge have on offer, both in Limavady and in Belfast, and indeed in Sligo, but Limavady and Belfast, anybody can now access this service essentially free of charge. There's no need for waiting lists in future if somebody doesn't want to be on the waiting list. So I just think it's a win in every sense, and that's why when Kingsbridge approached me for guidance and advice and all of this, I thought, my goodness, this really is a godsend.
Gareth, I think sometimes some of us might not engage with the likes of this scheme. Firstly, I'm surprised how many people didn't know about the cross-border directive and its replacement, but also it seems complicated. You know, what can I apply? Can I avail of it? How do I go about doing so? How much will it cost? How does reimbursement work? All that kind of stuff. But I think now, particularly with the drop-in information clinics, the idea is to take those concerns, those worries, those questions from people and provide answers.
Absolutely, Greg, yes. And at Kingsbridge, we've implemented a dedicated cross-border team to answer all of those questions and guide any patient from their initial inquiry right through until discharge after surgery. You touched on our drop-in clinics, and we had one just on the 15th of March, which was our first. And coincidentally, there was a patient indeed, as you highlighted, who was totally unaware of the scheme. It is not universally advertised across the island of Ireland, and it's ourselves who try to promote this. No patient should be languishing on a public waiting list for any length of time, given that this scheme is open to everyone. So we have two upcoming drop-in clinics in our outpatient facility in Letterkenny. The first of those is this Thursday on the 24th, and then on the 29th of March. At those, we will be meeting patients on a one-to-one basis, outlining how you can apply for the scheme. We will discuss the specialties that are available and the treatments, and also engage with the costs and level of reimbursements that are directed back to the patients.
What kind of, typically, you know, what are your most popular treatments that people are using the scheme for?
The most common ones, Greg, would typically be hip replacements, knee replacements, cataracts, but generally any treatment and surgery that you can avail of publicly can be accessed via the directive. So anything from head to toe can be availed of, and as I say, we will guide you through the course of the application and provide all the information necessary.
And in terms of just an obvious question, like, do you have to be on a waiting list, or, you know, how do you know if you can avail of this? Like, where do you have to be in the system in the Republic?
Thanks, Greg. Good question. And there's a popular myth that you have to be on a waiting list. That is categorically not the case. The only thing you require to access this scheme is a referral letter from your GP or treating consultant, and that starts the process off. Our team will help you with the paperwork, which can be complicated. So we've implemented the team to do that for you, and as I say, guide you through the entire process.
You talked waiting lists. The turnaround can be quite rapid, can't it? In availing of your service, I mean.
Under the scheme, you will be in to see a consultant within a number of weeks, and then have your surgery. Depending on what specialty it is, Greg, it could be 3 weeks, it could be 8 or 10 weeks thereafter. But
we're not talking 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 60 months. The kind of.
Absolutely not. We're talking 3 to 4 months, possibly for turnaround from consultation to having your surgery and being discharged from the hospital. Patients, believe it or not, are travelling from as far and wide as Cork and Kerry. They're coming to Belfast, to Kingsbridge, Belfast. They've also come to Kingsbridge, Ballykelly, to have cataracts and hips and knees done. So given that we've expanded now into the Northwest region with the acquisition of Northwest Independent, that is probably the closest in proximity to the residents of Donegal. And they can avail of the scheme there as well.
Pat, I think really the blocker for those who are aware of this scheme but are reluctant is the upfront costs. That is the biggest complication of this. I mean, obviously, if you can bridge that, much of it is reimbursed, but that is maybe the bit that's a little bit complicated for people.
Well, it might be a little bit intimidating, but in fact, there are many settings where credit unions, for instance, are familiar with the scheme. With the confirmation of the refund coming from the HSE and so on, they can get a ready loan to fund them through this year. So it's not nearly as difficult as one might imagine. There's a cast iron sort of guarantee of funding from the HSE, and therefore it's a short-term bridging loan that might be needed by some people. But I mean, Greg, it's pretty impressive. And I've been around the health service for a long time. This effectively is saying that, and I'm just talking about people from Donegal, you don't have to wait anymore. 40 minutes in the road from Letterkenny to Limavady or to Ballykelly. That's closer than Gweedore is to Letterkenny. It's 40 minutes in the road. You don't have to wait. There's no need to wait. It just seems to be like this is all dreams coming true. So when Ballykelly has been taken over now by Kingsbridge, it's part of the Kingsbridge group. It's now stepped up several levels in terms of what it provides and the complexity and so on. So it's a pretty impressive scenario as far as I can see.
Just so people are clear, the drop-ins are, and the Kingsbridge Private Hospital building in Letterkenny is located at Scally Place. Thursday 24th of March, Tuesday 29th of March. You don't have consultants on hand to sort of diagnose people. That's not what this is about, Gareth, just to be clear, so we don't have people wasting their time or your time for that matter. People are, like, at what stage do you want people to be out for them to be dropping in? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So people may be on a waiting list and want to know how to access the scheme. People may just want to find out more information. They may have been in with their GP who has a concern, etc. There will be no consultants there to deal with, physical queries or that. We will be just outlining the application process, the costs and reimbursement, time scales of when you might be seen, etc. Now, just on the Letterkenny clinic itself, we do have consultants operating out of there at the minute, and it'll celebrate its 1-year anniversary in June. But we will be gradually building the service provision and specialties within Letterkenny that patients can come and see.
And I'm sure I just didn't want anyone turning up going, my knee's playing up on me a little bit. Yes. You know what I mean? Because that would be.
There'll be no medical provision there at the drop-in clinics. It's purely information.
But Greg,
Pat, go ahead.
It's probably worth reinforcing for anybody who has an interest in this or wants to inquire. It's just a question of contacting the centre in Letterkenny, and then the system starts to roll from there. And Kingsbridge make the process easy for you, make the decision making easy. But it's your call at the end of the day in conjunction with your GP. Just contact. That's it.
Do we have any idea of, even anecdotally, what capacity is there versus what's being used? You know, because I think it's very clear, Pat, you're trying to force home the fact that this is here now, and it's a fantastic service. But I wonder, you know, and I don't mean the actual physical capacity of the Kingsbridge Healthcare Group, but, you know, clearly it's underused, Pat, significantly underused.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody who was on a waiting list were to go to the Kingsbridge, could they cope? Which is probably the question, and I imagine they couldn't. But it can take very significant extra numbers from what they're doing at the moment. Limavady has, or Ballykelly has, a lot of capacity that they can ratchet up to. So I wouldn't worry about there being a capacity issue at this stage.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of people languishing that don't need to be.
I don't understand it. I can't imagine why anybody would want to languish. They may have some concerns about whether it's in Northern Ireland and have they got access to their own medical cover when they come back and so on. None of that's an issue. People who have their treatment. There's seldom ever a post-operative issue. There's post-operative care in any event. If there are emergencies, there can be emergencies for any reason, so they just go to the local hospital. But it seems to me relatively straightforward. And for people from Donegal who are very familiar with Northern Ireland, familiar with travelling to Ballykelly, familiar with travelling to Belfast, it's not like coming from Cork, and yet we have busloads coming up from Cork.
Yeah, it has to be down to a lack of awareness, Gareth, because, you know, in terms of the busloads coming up from Cork and down the country, I think a lot of that is organised, you know, by maybe public representatives who might assist and make all that a little bit easier. But this is, you know, on our doorstep effectively. I mean, a lot of people would travel a great distance from within Donegal to go to Letterkenny. A lot of our treatment, you get referred down to Galway. So it's not like we're not afraid to travel, because unfortunately we've had to do it. It has to be, Gareth, down to awareness. Is there a reluctance of the system in the Republic to suggest this or refer this? I wonder, and that could be for any number of reasons which we don't really need to get into.
Perhaps, Greg, it's just something that hasn't been universally advertised by the HSE, and it's been left to the relevant independent hospitals in the north here just to promote the services and make it accessible to the patients. There are some advocates in Dáil Éireann who are strong believers in this scheme, and we could do with more. Just to make it aware among their constituents and the people of Ireland.
Yeah, and listen, it is complicated because it is public money going into sort of private healthcare, and then you have to then have another conversation about, you know, the funding in this country and how these hospitals are operated. And I think that's where it all gets confusion, and people have a little bit of difficulty in adopting a position that doesn't sound contradictory. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, no, just in case it should come across that it's an anti-Letterkenny General Hospital.
No, it's not. But
all of this relieves pressure on the existing public service system. So any numbers that go elsewhere relieves pressure. Everybody benefits as a consequence, and that's just the win-win in it.
All right, the drop-ins take place Thursday the 24th of March between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m, which might suit you if you're working. Tuesday the 29th of March between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. If you're interested, you can give the Kingsbridge Private Hospital, Letterkenny, Scally Place, Justice Walsh Road, Letterkenny, a call on 074 97 6000. That's the correct number, is it? 97 6000, is that right? Or is it 916? I think I'll double check that, because that sounds like a South Donegal number there. Leave that with me. Either way, you can email as well.
9,760,000.
It is okay. That's sorry. My apologies. It's just 9 sevens down the south of the county, and I didn't want to confuse anyone. 074 97 60,000. That is the number. I did this. I had an operation in Ballykelly. It cost me 60,000, and I only got back 2,200. Is that because people aren't going in this with their eyes fully wide open? And that's the purpose of these drop-in clinics, presumably.
It is, Greg, yes. And as I say, we've now implemented a team whereby all the information will be provided firsthand, including costs and reimbursements. So patients having all that information to hand they can decide to proceed with their treatment. They can decide to withdraw from the scheme at any stage as well.
Understood. Listen, thank both of you very much. I really do appreciate you joining us. That is unfortunately why we have to leave it on the programme today. Back with you tomorrow morning at 9. Stay tuned. John Bresson's coming up around the Northwest.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Mortgages now available with a personalised service from your local and friendly credit union. Email mortgage at